Lin Haoran held the steering column tightly, sweat sliding down his forehead and soaking the thin layer of insulating clothing in the space capsule. Outside the window of the orbital station, the Earth should have been the familiar blue gem, but at this moment it was like a canvas stained by ink, pitch black. Only sporadic firelight flickered on the surface, much like the paper money lanterns lit in the village during the Ghost Festival in the 7th lunar month, flickering on and off, revealing an indescribable strangeness. Control Center, this is the return capsule L7. Can you hear Haoran's call? He pressed the communication button, and his voice echoed in the cabin, but only the hiss of static electricity was heard. The warning lights on the dashboard flashed wildly, the altimeter plummeted, and the oxygen indicator started ticking. Damn it, signal interference? Or is it a solar storm? Lin Haoran muttered to himself, as simulation scenes from training flashed through his mind, but this felt wrong, so wrong. The atmosphere outside the cabin seemed to come alive, twisting into a swirling black shadow, as if something was pulling him down. Suddenly, a low buzzing sound came from the bottom of the cabin. It was not the sound of a mechanical failure, but like the sound of a copper bell being struck in an ancient temple. It was muffled and echoed. Lin Haoran's heart suddenly shrank, and he caught a glimpse of pale shadows flashing past the window, not clouds, not debris, but human figures. Those shadows twisted and stretched out their long arms, as if trying to grab them. The hallucination is definitely a hallucination caused by hypoxia. He forced himself to focus, and quickly operated the touch screen with both hands, trying to activate the emergency braking system. But it was too late. The space capsule slammed into the ground like a kite with a broken string. The violent vibrations made his vision go dark. A splitting headache. When Lin Haoran opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was not the expected runway lights, but boundless darkness. The backup light in the cabin automatically turned on, emitting a faint blue light, illuminating the twisted metal walls and scattered instrument fragments. He sat up with a cough, his chest felt tight and painful, as if something heavy had been pressed down on him. Am I alive? He fumbled to unbuckle his seatbelt, his mind in confusion. The last memory is of falling, what now? Where is it outside? The observation window of the hatch was covered with dust. He wiped it away and found ruins outside. The ruins of a city, with high-rise buildings crumpled and torn apart, and the streets littered with overturned cars and rusty signboards. There is no starlight, no moon, only eternal darkness, like being covered by an endless black cloth. Lin Haoran's heart sank. This is not a normal re-entry of the Earth's atmosphere. What the hell is this place? Impossible, the data from the orbital station shows that everything is normal. He whispered, his voice trembling in the cabin. Suddenly, a chill seeped in from the gap in the cabin door. It was not wind, but like the cold air in a tomb. He took a closer look and saw something moving outside the window. It was a vague outline at first, and then it gradually became clear, a figure, dressed in ragged clothes, with no facial features, just a black hole-like void. It drifted closer slowly, its hands stretched out like skinny branches, knocking on the bulkhead. Boom, boom, boom. The sound was less like hammering metal and more like fingernails scraping against the coffin boards. Get away! Lin Haoran backed away instinctively and bumped into the console. With his heart beating like a drum, he scanned the cabin and his eyes fell on the main power switch. The space capsule was originally designed for space exploration and has a built-in high-intensity LED light array to simulate sunlight. But now, it may be the only weapon. He took a deep breath and reached out to pull the switch. Buzz, the lights in the cabin suddenly brightened. Dazzling white light burst out from the cabin roof and side walls, piercing the darkness like a sharp sword. The ghost figure outside the window let out a sharp roar, as if it was burned by fire, twisted and retreated, turning into a wisp of black smoke and dissipating into the night. Lin Haoran was stunned. The light actually worked. The air around me seemed to be fresher, and the chill subsided, replaced by a brief sense of security. But this is just the beginning. More noises came from outside the cabin, like the roars of wild animals mixed with the cries of people. Lin Haoran leaned closer to the window and saw the scene outside clearly through the light. Mutated monsters crawling on the street, originally in the form of dogs or humans, were now covered with tentacle-like limbs and their eyes glowed red. They are attracted by the light, but fearfully hover at the edge of the circle, roaring with hunger. One of them, looking like a twisted werewolf, tried to pounce, but as soon as it touched the edge of the light, its skin was torn apart and it retreated. What kind of doomsday movie is this? Lin Haoran laughed to himself, trying to ease his panic. But the laugh was dry, and he knew it was true. What happened to the Earth? Why eternal night? The communication system was still hissing with no response. He turned around and inspected the damage to the capsule. The propeller was scrapped, the oxygen reserve was only 60%, and there were cracks in the fuel tank. But the core system, the capsule's AI auxiliary module, is still functioning. He's an engineer, that's his specialty. Come on, baby, let me see how long you can last. Lin Haoran knelt on the ground and pried open the panel of the console, revealing the densely packed circuit boards. His fingers skillfully connected the diagnostic line, and a data stream popped up on the screen. The radiation level was abnormally high, and the source of external magnetic field interference was unknown. He repaired the main power circuit, made sure the light output was stable, and then checked the external sensors. The picture shows that there are heat source signals within 5 kilometers around. Humans? Or a monster? The repair took 2 hours, during which time he did not dare to turn off the lights. The monsters roared endlessly, like a group of hungry ghosts wandering outside the door. Finally, cabin systems returned to basic functionality, the air circulators hummed, and oxygen levels rose. Lin Haoran stood up and wiped the sweat from his forehead, feeling as if he had just escaped from hell. Growth? It's out of the question now, he just wants to live. He carefully pushed the hatch open a crack, and the light of the light extended out, forming a 10-meter-wide safety circle. Outside is the edge of the ruined city, with a Chinese sign still remaining on the collapsed billboard, "Welcome to XX City, a prosperous city that never sleeps." The city that never sleeps? Now it is a prison of eternal night. The air was filled with the smell of decay, mixed with blood. He took a step and his feet clicked on the gravel. Within the aperture, everything is still. Outside the aperture, the shadows are shaking. In the distance, there was a faint flicker of firelight on the roof of a sloping building. Anyone? Lin Haoran squinted and looked. The fire seemed to be responding to his light, trembling slightly, like a signal for help. He clenched the multifunctional tool knife in his hand, feeling a sense of hope mixed with vigilance in his heart. In this world of eternal night, who knows whether there is salvation or a trap behind the fire? The monster's roars came closer, and Lin Haoran retreated into the cabin and closed the door. The light is still on, like a lone lamp, shining tenaciously in the darkness. He leaned back in his chair, thinking about his next move: repair the thrusters? Looking for fuel? Or pursue the fire in the distance? Outside, the city's outline faintly emerged in the dark night, as if whispering unknown secrets. Lin Haoran stared at the observation window of the hatch. The fire in the distance flickered and went out like a naughty will-o'-the-wisp, as if mocking his hesitation. He shook his head, forcing himself to return to reality. The monsters outside were still wandering around, their low roars like wild dogs barking in the night market, intermittently, sending shivers down one's spine. Forget about the fire, this space capsule must be stabilized, otherwise there won't even be a place to stay. He turned to check the power system. The screen showed that the light output was stable, but the external sensors picked up the signal of the heat source getting closer, not the friendly kind. He took a deep breath and murmured, step by step, "Haoran. You are an engineer, not a Superman." He first strengthened the hatch latch, used a spare welding gun to weld the loose panel securely, and then adjusted the lighting mode, switching from full power to pulse output. This saves power while testing boundaries. Pushing open the cabin door, Lin Haoran carefully stretched out the tool light in his hand, a small LED module removed from the cabin and tied to a stick, which looked very much like the lotus lantern in the hands of his grandfather during the Hungry Ghost Festival when he was a child. He stepped out of the circle of light, his steps as light as stepping on cotton. The surrounding ruins were silent, broken glass and newspaper fragments were scattered on the ground, and the air was filled with a damp musty smell, mixed with a touch of rust and blood. The light extended to 15 meters away, and he felt a chill, as if someone was blowing air on the back of his neck. Not bad, he said to himself, taking 2 more steps forward. Suddenly, the black shadow on the edge moved. A twisted silhouette crawled out of the shadows, resembling a humanoid but without a head. It was wearing a tattered suit, like a zombie after falling from an office building. It didn't make a sound, just glided over and stretched out its skinny fingers to test the edge of the light. When you touch it with your fingers, it makes a sizzling sound, like meat falling into a hot oil pan and black smoke rising. It retreated, but did not go far. It crouched outside the circle of light, its eyes, if they were eyes, glowing green. Lin Haoran's heartbeat accelerated. He retreated to the safe area. The monster did not chase him, but there were more whispers around him, like a group of people whispering ghost stories in their ears. Light can disperse them, but not kill them. Wait for an opportunity to counterattack, remember. He reminded himself in a low voice, and the survival principles in the training manual flashed through his mind. In unknown environments, build a line of defense first. This eternal night is not just dark, there are things hidden in it, living and dead, waiting for you to make a mistake. When the lights in the cabin stabilized, he decided to go out and pick up some supplies. Oxygen and food are urgent needs, and the capsule's reserves are only enough to last 3 days. Lin Haoran put a homemade backpack on his back sewn with insulation cloth in the cabin, with a utility knife and a spare battery stuffed inside. He held the tool light tightly, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the hatch. This time he walked around the circle of light and scanned the surroundings: an overturned electric car with its headlights still dimly lit, a convenience store on the roadside with its door half open and a dark interior like a gaping mouth. He first pounced on the electric car, smashed the door open, and took out the battery and several packets of crushed biscuits inside. When I took a bite, it still had that familiar salty taste, like the snacks I ate on the way to school when I was a kid. Suddenly, a cold feeling hit the back of his head, and he turned around sharply. There was nothing. But it felt wrong, like someone was watching. He quickened his pace and ran towards the convenience store, the light casting long shadows under his feet. Most of the shelves in the store were empty. He bent down and picked up a few cans of expired black bean fish and a bottle of mineral water. He was about to turn around when footsteps came from the door. Not the shuffling monster crawl, but the steady thump of boots. Lin Haoran instinctively grabbed an iron pipe next to the shelf and hid it in the shadows. "Who's there?" he shouted in a low voice, his voice sounding like a playful scolding in Beijing dialect, with a vigilant tone. "Don't move, it's a person." "Lin Haoran? Is it you?" A rough voice sounded, with a familiar northeastern accent. A figure burst in from the door, tall and strong, wrapped in a patchwork leather jacket, holding an iron rod in his hand, with a flashlight tied to the end of the rod, the light flickering like a will-o'-the-wisp. The man's face was covered with stubble, and his eyes were narrowed into slits, but Lin Haoran recognized those eyes. Yuhang, his old colleague, the survival madman who had stayed up late repairing equipment together since the orbital station training camp. "Yuhang? What are you?" Lin Haoran let go of the iron pipe. The two looked at each other for a moment, and then laughed out loud in unison, as if they were seeing long-lost brothers. "Are you still alive? I thought you had been eaten by those ghosts." Yuhang panted and patted him on the shoulder. "Nibble on me? They are not worthy. I just crawled over from the construction site in the east. I heard that there were lights on here, so I came here. There is chaos outside. Haoran, this is not a solar storm, this is the fucking gate of hell that has opened." He glanced outside the door, waved the iron rod, and the light swept across a black shadow, and the thing hissed away. Without further ado, the two grabbed whatever they could find in the store, battery, rope, a fruit knife, and ran out. Lin Haoran was leading the way, and the tool light illuminated the way forward. Behind the Yuhang Hall, the iron rods struck the ground to make a rhythm, like the drumbeat of a military band. As soon as I left the store, trouble struck. The chill in the air rose suddenly, like the mist over a tomb, and the low roar in the distance turned into a sharp cry. A wave of ghosts came, not a single monster, but 3 or 4 pale figures, floating towards them. Their faces were twisted into expressions of pain, their mouths open wide, revealing black hole-like teeth, as if they were crawling out of hanging ghosts in old movies. Behind Haoran, the one on the left. Yuhang yelled and hit the nearest one with a stick. The flashlight on the iron rod flashed, and the ghost screamed and twisted, but did not disperse. Instead, it stretched out its hand to grab his arm. Yuhang groaned, and there were many blood marks on his arms, as if they had been scratched by fingernails. Damn, they're not afraid of sticks. Lin Haoran's mind flashed and he remembered the lighting effects in the cabin. He pulled out the spare battery from his backpack, quickly connected the tool light and adjusted it to maximum power. Use light. Don't let them get close. He pushed the lamp forward, and white light shot out like an arrow, hitting the front ghost. The thing was like a snowman melted by the sun, screaming and turning into black smoke. But the other 2 came around, one pounced on Yuhang, and the other went straight to Lin Haoran. Yuhang reacted quickly, dodged sideways, and swept the iron rod across, blocking Lin Haoran with his body at the same time. "Boy, lend me a fire," he shouted. Lin Haoran understood and threw the battery over. Yuhang caught it and tied it to the flashlight. The 2 lights converged and swept across the second ghost. It let out a shrill cry, like a wild cat in the village whose tail was stepped on and retreated into the shadows. The last one was the toughest, wrapping around Yuhang's legs, sending the coldness straight into his bones. Lin Haoran rushed forward and kicked it away. The tool light shone directly on its face, black smoke exploded, and the air was filled with a burnt smell. The 2 gasped and retreated to the circle of light. The monsters stopped chasing them, but the darkness around them became thicker, like living ink rolling. Yuhang rubbed his arms and grinned. "Not bad, Haoran. Your space capsule thing saved lives. Otherwise, I would have become their snack." Lin Haoran nodded, feeling warm in his heart. It was the first living person, and old acquaintances were still alive, making him feel less alone. "Come into the cabin, it's not safe here. Tell me what's going on outside." Back in the capsule, lights illuminated the small space like a makeshift beacon. Yuhang sat down, tore open a pack of biscuits and gave it to him. The city collapsed. It started 3 days ago. It was an earthquake at first, and then it got dark and there was no light. Those ghosts crawled out from the ground, first gnawing at the police, and then passers-by. I was on duty at the construction site and caught them. I ran away with the iron rod and flashlight. I heard that there was a lighted camp in the city center, but the monsters were surrounding it and I couldn't get in. The eternal night was not only dark, it sucked people's souls. I saw a guy standing in the shadows, just gone. His eyes were empty, as if he had lost his soul. Lin Haoran listened and pieced together the information in his mind. This eternal night has a supernatural flavor, like the road to hell in ancient Chinese books, where the gates of hell are wide open. He nodded. I fell from the orbital station and saw the same thing. The light is effective, but the range is limited. The foundation must be built, otherwise it will not be able to hold up. Yuhang glanced at him with admiration in his eyes. You've changed. In the training camp, you used to hide behind you and repair machines. Now you're like a boss. Okay, I'll listen to you. What should you do? Lin Haoran stood up, feeling a little more responsibility on his shoulders. It's not panic, it's adaptation. He walked to the console and took apart an old module, used the LEDs and batteries in the cabin to make simple lamps. Like grenades, they can be thrown out to light the way. We divide the work, you patrol the aperture, and I assemble it. In this way, monsters can fight back when they come. Yuhang laughed and patted the iron rod. I can do close combat, but you can do the technology. Dude, we have formed an alliance. From now on, let's break it together in this eternal night. Lin Haoran quickly connected the wires with his fingers, and the first lamp took shape, a fist-sized sphere filled with LEDs. When the switch is pressed, a brief burst of bright light will occur. He handed it to Yuhang. try it. Those ghosts outside may be the undead in the city. Be careful, they not only kill people, but also want to drag you into trouble. The two opened the hatch and tested the new lamps. The light ball was thrown out and exploded into a ball of white light, illuminating a pile of ruins 20 meters away. The monsters in the distance retreated, but Lin Haoran heard the whispers coming closer, like cries carried by the wind. Yuhang clenched the iron rod. Did you hear? They are calling people's names. Haoran, we have to find more people, otherwise this light will not last long. Lin Haoran nodded and looked at the distant fire. It was still flashing and seemed to be closer. In the darkness, new shadows began to gather, coming like a tide. Lin Haoran squinted at the gathering shadows, feeling like a pot of boiling ink that was about to overflow at any time. He patted Yuhang's shoulder and lowered his voice. Those things are tampering with us. We can't just stay here. We have to find fuel and light sources. The battery of the cabin won't last long. Let's go and explore in the direction of the fire. Maybe we can pick something up. Yuhang turned the iron rod, and the light swayed on the head of the rod, like a disobedient will-o'-the-wisp. He grinned, with a hint of pride in his northeastern accent. Okay, boss. I won't go west if you tell me something. But be careful, those cries just now sound like the ghost stories I heard when I was a child, specially designed to seduce spirits. He pulled out the newly made light ball from his backpack and threw it to Lin Haoran. This little thing is good, it saves us two from using the flashlight as a target. The two checked the equipment. Lin Haoran tied the tool light around his waist and carried the rope and battery picked up from the convenience store on his back. The capsule's door made a low buzz as it closed, as if to remind them not to look back. They stepped out of the circle of light and stepped on the gravel, making a clicking sound, as if they were knocking on the bones of the city. The ruined streets looked like they had been gnawed by giant beasts, with tall buildings skewed and wires tangled in a tangled web. The air was filled with the smell of burnt plastic, mixed with faint decay. The eternal night makes everything sticky and black as if you can touch the edges. Remember, don't get too close to the edge of the light, Lin Haoran said as he walked, holding the light switch in his hand. Those ghosts like to test the edges, like a cat catching a mouse. We take turns leading the way, you shoot the stick in front, and I fill in the light behind. Yuhang nodded, knocked the iron rod on the ground, and the light swept out a narrow road. Understood. Haoran, you fell from the orbital station, have you seen the starry sky outside? In this dark sky, it feels like you have fallen into the gate of hell. I heard that there was an old legend in Beijing in the past, about Huangquan Road, etc., but now it has become a reality. Lin Haoran's heart tightened, remembering the story about the ghost festival told by his grandfather, about those wandering souls wandering in the night, waiting for lanterns to lead the way. But he didn't say much and focused on his feet. After walking for about 10 minutes, they bypassed a squashed bus with a faded advertisement hanging on its body. Explore the universe, the future starts here. Ironic, Lin Haoran thought, the universe has now swallowed the Earth. They picked up a few scattered car light batteries and stuffed them into their backpacks, feeling like they had found a treasure. Suddenly, Yuhang stopped, with the iron rod lying in front of him. Did you hear it? There is movement ahead. Something is wrong, like crying in the wind, but it's close. Lin Haoran also felt that the air was chilly, and the back of his neck felt like an icy hand was caressing it. He turned on the tool light and scanned an alley ahead. The alley is filled with garbage, and there is a faint green light flickering, like a dancing will-o'-the-wisp. Go around? Yuhang asked in a low voice, his eyes narrowed. Lin Haoran shook his head. The fuel may be at the gas station inside. We have to try. Throw a light ball to find the way. He pressed the switch, and the light ball rolled into the alley, exploding with white light. Instantly, screams rang out, and 3 or 4 pale figures sprang out from the cracks in the wall, like bats awakened by the sun. Their faces were twisted like old people, their eyes were hollow, black mist came out of their mouths, and they murmured something inaudible like "go home" or "give me back my life," mixed with Beijing dialect accents that made people's bones tingle. Damn it, it's a lair! Yuhang yelled, hitting the nearest one with a stick. The light on the stick passed by, and the ghost hissed away, but more shadows came from the darkness like a tide. Lin Haoran's heartbeat was beating like a drum. He quickly connected the battery, set the tool light to pulse mode, and emitted a beam of light. The light arrow hit a ghost. It let out a shrill cry and turned into smoke, but the cold air still hit his face, making his fingers stiff with cold. Back up. Haoran, left. Yu Hang blocked an incoming ghost hand, with a new wound on his arm, blood oozing out like red ink. He gasped, "These things are different. They are like trapped ghosts, specializing in absorbing heat." Just as they were retreating and fighting, a clear voice came from the side, "Don't fight hard. This is a ghost nest, and the light will only anger them. Follow me, there is a sewer behind the alley, you can bypass it." The voice was like a mountain spring, with a soft southern tone, but as firm as an order. Lin Haoran turned his head and saw a figure flashing out from the edge of the shadow, a woman in her early 20s, with long hair disheveled, wearing a shabby windbreaker, holding a string of LED lights in her hand, like Christmas lights but with only a faint glow left. Her eyes were closed, as if listening to the wind, and her face was pale but not panicked. "Who are you? Why are you here?" Yu Hang waved his stick and the light shined on her, but he did not attack. The woman opened her eyes, her pupils as dark as night. "Call me Yushi. These ghosts are the dead from the old days, awakened by eternal night, and there are hundreds of them in the lair. Light is a double-edged sword, and if used in the wrong place, it will attract large groups. I feel your fluctuations, supernatural, like a lighthouse." She pointed to the depths of the alley. The green light became brighter. "Quickly, turn left. There is a crack under the pile of rubble that leads directly to the sewer. Trust me, otherwise you too will feed ghosts." Lin Haoran hesitated for half a second. Yu Hang's wounds and the crying behind flashed in his mind. He nodded. "Let's go. Yu Hang, protect her." The three of them turned around, with Yushi taking the lead and getting into the rubble. She moved lightly, like a cat, and whispered as she ran, "I have some sense, and I've had it since the day it got dark. It's not science, it's intuition. Those ghosts hate light, because light reminds them of the days they lived." They squeezed into the cracks, which were damp and moldy, like the alley sewers in old Beijing. Their feet made a squeaking sound in the mud. Lin Haoran came back and threw the last light ball to block the entrance. The light exploded and the ghost crying behind him was muffled. Yu Hang gasped, "Sister, you saved our lives." "Haoran, this Yongye is really evil, even women have become supermen." Yushi smiled, with a hint of bitterness in his voice. "Superman? Just alive. I hid in the library for 2 days and read some ancient books. The eternal night is not a natural disaster, but an ancient spirit. It is recorded in ancient Chinese books that the lord of the underworld, the king of wraiths thousands of years ago, was sealed underground. The earthquake opened the door, turned the sky dark, and awakened all the dead souls. Light is the only nemesis, because it represents anger." Lin Haoran listened, and his heart felt as if a string had been plucked. As an engineer, he was used to numbers and formulas, but these words sounded like a cross between science fiction and a ghost story, but they explained the murmurs of those ghosts. Ancient spirit? It sounds like superstition. But, those monsters are really not afraid of sticks, only light. "Girl, your name is Yushi. We are Lin Haoran and Yu Hang, from the space capsule. How about an alliance? We have technology, you have perception, 3 people are better than 2 people." Yushi stopped. They had climbed out of the sewer and arrived at an abandoned back street. The fire in the distance was closer, like a small camp. She nodded, a secret flashing in her eyes. "Okay. But I have something to hide from you. I'll tell you later. For now, help me find a light source, my string is about to run out of power." The 3 of them continued to move forward, the tension in the ruins like a tightened bow. Yu Hang was exploring the road ahead, Yushi was sensing the situation, and Lin Haoran was behind, already making calculations in his mind. On the way, they picked up an abandoned electric car charging station, which contained several barrels of spare fuel and solar panel fragments. Lin Haoran squatted down, took apart a panel, and quickly soldered on the circuit. This can connect to the power supply of the cabin. Yuhang, help me hold it steady. Yushi, do you feel any movement nearby? Yushi closed her eyes and frowned slightly. The east side is clean, but the west side is turbulent, like a ghost wandering around. Be careful, there are tunnels under this city, and spirits love to hide there. Filling their backpacks with fuel, they walked around a bunch of collapsed billboards. There were propaganda posters of space capsules painted on them, which made Lin Haoran smile bitterly with irony. When we returned to the space capsule, it was still dark, and the eternal night enveloped the world like an eternal sheet. The hatch opens and the light comes out, like a hug from an old friend. After entering the cabin, Lin Haoran went straight to the console. The fuel was injected into the system, the buzzing sound started, and the power supply was stable. He wiped his sweat and turned to the communication module. It was broken 2 days ago and there was too much external interference. We need to fix this thing. Yuhang, hand me the welding gun. Yushi, the ancient spirit you mentioned sounds like the source of the signal. What if the communication can be connected to the outside? Yuhang handed over the tools and leaned against the bulkhead. Fix it, boss. Your skills are getting better and better, from a rookie at the orbital station to a doomsday engineer. In the past training camp, you needed my help to repair a satellite model. Lin Haoran smiled and quickly removed the stitches with his fingers. It's just getting used to it. It's Yongye's fault. He bypassed the burn circuit and connected a new battery, and the screen flashed. Suddenly, the static was interspersed with voices. Intermittent, this is the Camp of Lights, asking for help, monsters siege, repeat. Yushi came closer and her eyes lit up. It's a survivor. I felt their lights fluctuate in the direction of the city center. The ancient spirit was suppressing the signal, but you fixed it and it leaked out. Yuhang patted the table. Great. Haoran, this is a turning point. The three of us have to go meet them. But those shadows outside are moving again. Lin Haoran stared at the screen. The signal was weak but real. He felt that the responsibility on his shoulders was heavy, but there was a warm current in his heart. From being alone to having a partner, this change was like a light, illuminating the way forward. Outside the cabin, whispers began again, like an invitation or warning carried by the wind. Lin Haoran's hand was still on the console. The static noise on the screen was as intermittent as a heartbeat, and the call for help from the light camp seemed to echo in his ears. He turned to look at Yuhang and Yushi. The lights in the cabin stretched the shadows of the three of them, like 3 unyielding candles. The signal is unstable, but the location is on the edge of the city center. We have to help them, he said, with a hint of undeniable determination in his voice, but we can't go empty-handed. The cabin's lights can support a small circle, but if you want to expand, you need a large power source. There is an old power station on the edge of the city. I remember looking at the map from the orbital station. The turbines there can power an entire area. Yuhang leaned against the bulkhead, turning the iron rod in his hand. The dim light of the lamp ball reflected on his face, illuminating the new scar. He grinned, and the northeastern pride came back. Power station? It sounds like looking for treasure, boss. But those shadows outside are scratching at the door. It just sounded like a group of hungry wolves grinding their teeth. Sister, how do you feel? Is the Spirit King still making trouble? Yushi squatted next to the communication module, her eyes half closed, as if listening to the whispers in the wind. She tapped her finger on the bulkhead, and her voice was soft and hard. The fluctuations are getting stronger, as if I was seduced by your signal. There is a heavy aura in the direction of the power station, but it is not a pure ghost. There is something mutated guarding it. Monsters have evolved. According to ancient books, Yongyi makes dead things come to life, fuses resentment, becomes smarter, and is no longer afraid of simple sticks. Go, but you have to bring my senses, otherwise you will step into a trap. Lin Haoran nodded, and the training at the orbital station flashed through his mind. In times of crisis, leaders do not give orders, but let everyone use their strengths. He stood up and pulled out a few spare parts from the cabinet, the capsule solar cells and laser collimator, which were originally used to repair satellites but now had to be turned into weapons. You hang, you focus on the close attack, you guide the way and avoid danger. I am in charge of the light source. In the first battle of the Alliance, we have to prove that we are not dragsters. He handed Yu Hang a reinforced rope. Tie it around your waist. If it breaks up, you can pull it back. Just like the tripping game we played when we were children, don't let ghosts play with it. Yu Hang took it and laughed. Tie it up, so that you don't have to be an engineer and a nanny. Let's go. Yushi also stood up and checked her LED light string. A hint of warmth flashed in her eyes. You two are like the alley buddies in old Beijing, with hard words and soft hearts. Okay, I'll take the lead. The hatch slid open and light spilled out, like a provocation. The eternal night outside is even more sticky. The air is mixed with the smell of metal rust and faint sulfur, and distant whispers come like a tide. The three stepped out of the circle of light, their footsteps stepping on the broken glass, and the clicking sound echoed in the darkness. Lin Haoran turned the tool light to low power and cleared a narrow road. Yu Hang drove the stick in front, and Yushi whispered in the middle, turn left to avoid the pile of car wrecks. There's resentment underneath. They moved along the edge of the city. The ruins looked like models crushed by giant hands. The steel bars of high-rise buildings were exposed and wrapped around broken neon tubes. Occasionally, they flashed a green light, like the winking eyes of ghosts. After walking for 20 minutes, Yu Hang panted and wiped his sweat. Haoran, this walk is like climbing the Great Wall. The eternal night has turned Beijing into a ghost town. I remember when I was a kid, my dad took me to the summer palace. It was brightly lit at night, but now? It's all in the dark. Lin Haoran smiled, holding the parts in his hand, and calculated as he walked. Yes, but you have to light the lights yourself. The power station is coming soon, and the transformer there can be connected to the cabin system and expanded to cover half a block. Yushi, where are you going to tell me what you are hiding? It's not that I don't believe you, but the team must be transparent. Yushi kept walking, and her voice was as low as a whisper. Wait until it's safe. My perception is not innate, it was acquired by Yongyi biting me. I used to work as a volunteer in the library, specializing in reading ancient books, but I didn't expect it to become a real person. She paused, then turned to look at Lin Haoran. What about you? How did you adapt so quickly after falling from the sky? Shouldn't engineers be afraid of the dark? Lin Haoran's heart moved and he thought briefly. I'm afraid, but I have to bear it. He said, the black in the orbital station is vacuum and clean, the black here has claws. Adaptation is a must. Now we are not repairing machines, we are repairing lives. As soon as he finished speaking, Yu Hang suddenly raised his stick. Stop. There is movement in front, something is wrong, like a group of rats swarming the ground. Ahead is the wall of the power station. The barbed wire fence is broken. The turbine tower inside is hidden in the fog, and there is a faint hum, not electricity, but a low roar. Yushi closed her eyes and turned pale. A group of monsters. They are not ghosts, but mutated beasts, fused with spiritual bodies and evolved. They are afraid of light, but now they have learned to surround them and pounce when the light is weak. The weaknesses are in the eyes and core, where the core of resentment is hidden, like the heart. Before he finished speaking, a dozen figures emerged from the darkness, no longer pale ghosts, but twisted variants of wild dogs and mice, with hair like black thorns, eyes as red as blood beads, and green mist coming out of their mouths. Their roars were mixed with human murmurs. Give me back the light. They came from all directions, like a tide, and their claws scraped against the ground, making the sound of metal friction. The leading dog monster has a swollen body and bone spurs on its back, like a deformed child of Yongye. Spread out. Yushi is at the sky wall. Retreat, I'll block it. Lin Haoran shouted. The leadership tone in his voice made him stunned for a moment. He pulled out the laser collimator from his waist, quickly connected the battery, and the formulas were racing in his mind. Beam output, pulse mode. Yu Hang had already rushed forward, and hit a rat monster with the iron rod. The light passed by, and it screamed and backed away, but another one pounced on him, its claws scratched his arm, and blood spurted out. Fuck! These bastards can dance. Yu Hang roared, kicking one away. The stick danced into a windmill, and the light ball rolled down and exploded with white light, forcing 3 of them to retreat. Yushi dodged to the side and swung out the LED light string, like a whip hitting the dog monster's eyes. The core is in the chest. The resentment is gathered there, and the light can explode if it hits directly. She was as agile as a cat, and circled behind a rat monster. The light flashed, and it wailed and fell to the ground, but more monsters came. The circle shrank, and green mist filled the area, dimming the light. Lin Haoran's heart was beating like thunder, and something flashed through his mind: you can't just cultivate, you have to fight. He improvised modifications, connected the calibrator to the tool light, and the parts clicked together to emit sparks. A blue-white beam of light shot out, hitting the core of the leading dog monster. The light arrow was like a laser, penetrating the green mist. Black smoke exploded from the monster's chest, and its roar turned into a shrill cry: light, pain. It fell to the ground and twitched, and the monsters around it were stunned, revealing flaws. Well done, boss. Yu Hang took the opportunity to jump up and hit 2 rat monsters with his stick. The light and iron combined to make the sound of bones cracking. He gasped and laughed. You boy, you have changed from a satellite repairman to a shooter. Keep going, don't stop. The monster group was in chaos, but evolution made them more tenacious. A bone-spurred dog pounced on Yushi, its claws grazing her windbreaker. She dodged sideways, and her senses allowed her to predict the trajectory. Haoran, the one on the right, is weak and has its resentment core exposed. Lin Haoran turned around, the beam swept across, the monster turned into smoke, and the green mist dispersed, revealing the power station door. The battle lasted for 5 minutes, with the 3 of them back to back, sweat mixed with blood, and the lights flickering tenaciously in the darkness. Yu Hang's stick was bent, Yushi's light string only had 2 lights left, and Lin Haoran's fingers were blistered due to burns, but he felt a change. He was no longer an engineer hiding in the cabin, but a leader leading the team. The last monster retreated into the darkness, and its roar faded away, like the wail of a defeated army. They gasped and pushed open the door. The turbine inside was still humming, and the battery cabinet was half destroyed but had spares. Yushi wiped her face. These mutated beasts prove that spiritual bodies are evolving and that eternal night is not static. It is devouring everything. The light scares them because the light is the mark of the living and reminds them of their death. Lin Haoran nodded, took apart a battery pack, and connected the rope. It's good to be afraid. Let's take it back and expand the aperture. Yu Hang, help me dismantle the turbine blade. Yushi, be on guard. He said as he worked, thanks to you just now, I thought I could only repair machines, but I didn't expect to be able to lead the fight. The team really works. Yu Hang patted him on the shoulder, his voice rough and warm. Boss, you are good. It will be dark forever, but our fire will never go out. Yushi smiled and looked at the distant fire. Yes, but the Spirit King is still there, and I can feel its anger. The next step is to go to the camp. They packed the parts and stepped out of the power station with heavy hopes on their backs. In the darkness, the whispers started again, but this time they sounded like fear. They carried heavy battery packs and turbine fragments on their backs, and their footsteps made a muffled sound on the gravel road. The light swept the area like a slender yellow dragon, barely protecting the 3 of them. Lin Haoran was walking in the middle, the tool lamp in his hand swaying, which showed that the blood stains on Yu Hang's arm were still seeping out, and the edge of Yushi's windbreaker was torn open by his claws. The whispers in the darkness persisted, like a group of ghosts grinding their teeth in the distance, mixed with the whistle of the wind blowing through the barbed wire, but it was indeed weaker and no longer so close to the skin. These parts are as heavy as a mountain on your back, Yu Hang gasped, holding the iron bar under his arm and holding the battery box with his other hand. Boss, do we really want to take it back to the cabin to repair it? The turbine in the power station is still humming. Maybe if it is connected on site, it can light up half the street. It saves you having to go back and forth and let those mutated things catch up. Lin Haoran quickly calculated in his mind, the system of the cabin is compatible, but the transformer of the power station is a local power supply. When connected, the coverage is large and the risk is high. There was a moment of hesitation in my heart: play it safe and return to the cabin, or try to expand the aperture. You're right, Yuhang. The night waits for no one, and the lights are on and the rain comes in time. Yushi, what do you think? Is the place still clean? Yushi took the lead, LED light string swaying lightly around her waist. She closed her eyes for a moment and frowned slightly. The resentment has subsided, but there is a pulsation underneath, like a heartbeat. The spirit body is waiting and watching, and there is no immediate counterattack. But turning on the headlights will be like beating a gong, attracting more things. Including Corinne. She turned her head, her eyes shining strangely under the light. I support on-site cultivation. I hid something from you. There is a prophecy in the ancient book that the gathering of lights will awaken the night watcher, but it will also open up the darkness. Lin Haoran nodded, feeling that the team's tacit understanding seemed to have an extra layer of oil and became smoother. Okay, let's go back to the station. Yuhang, guard the door. Yushi, help me identify the line, and I'll connect the system. They turned back and pushed open the creaking door. The air inside was even hotter, mixed with the smell of engine oil and burning. The turbine tower stood in the middle, like a rusty giant. Half of the instrument panel on the console was broken, but the main line was still there, and there was a faint electric arc beating. The three of them had a tacit understanding of the division of labor. Yuhang stood by the door, his stick raised, and his eyes scanned the darkness outside. It's eerily quiet outside, like an alley on a winter night in Beijing. There are no dogs barking and no one makes a sound. Only the wind is licking the wall. Lin Haoran squatted in front of the console and took a picture from his backpack. Pulling out the solar cell of the space capsule and the coil of the laser collimator, he said while dismantling it, "This battery is orbital grade and can stabilize the voltage. Connect it to the turbine and the output will double. Yushi, come and take a look. Is this red wire a live wire? Is there any electricity in ancient books?" Yushi came closer, pointing at the circuit diagram with her slender fingers, and said in a brisk voice with a hint of ridicule, "The ancient book is a supernatural book, not an electrician's manual. But my dad is an old engineer and taught me how to identify wires since I was a child. Yes, this is the live wire, and the blue one is the neutral wire. Be careful, the eternal night makes the metal sensitive, and you will be slapped if you touch it wrong." She helped peel off the insulation, and Lin Haoran's fingers moved nimbly among the sparks, and the formulas appeared in her mind like old friends: resistance matching, load balancing. 10 minutes later, the system clicked into place, a low buzz sounded, the console light came on, and a green light swept across the entire hall. "It's done!" Lin Haoran wiped his sweat, stood up and turned the switch. The turbine accelerated, roared like thunder, and light burst out from the top of the tower, not the dim light in the cabin, but a regional torrent, intertwined with white and yellow, piercing the eternal night and shining directly 100 meters away. Outside the walls around the power station, the ruins lit up, street lamp posts swayed to life, and fragments of neon signs flickered, as if the city was breathing. The aperture expanded, illuminating the broken bridge and collapsed shopping mall in the distance, and the stickiness in the air suddenly became thinner. Yuhang poked his head through the crack in the door and laughed. "Look. This light is as bright as the New Year in Tiananmen Square, with brilliant lights. Boss, you are a magician, turning a space capsule into a power plant." He patted Lin Hao on the back, so hard that it made people cough, but the warm energy of the northern man made Lin Haoran feel warm in his heart. A brief thought in my heart: leadership is not done alone, but with the help of others. Yushi stood under the tower, but her face was not so optimistic. She looked at the edge of the circle of light and narrowed her eyes. "People are coming." I sensed a dozen or so, hiding in the dark, rushing here. They are not monsters, they are survivors. The light is like a magnet. Sure enough. Less than 5 minutes later, there were footsteps outside and sporadic shouts. "Light! There is light! Brothers, rush!" The first wave of figures emerged, a middle-aged man carrying a child on his back, and a woman dragging a broken tire truck filled with cans and cloth strips. They jumped into the light circle, their eyes were red and swollen, and their clothes were as dirty as rags. Thank God. Who are you? How did you light the lamp? The uncle gasped and knelt down, and the child began to cry. Lin Haoran stepped forward and said in a steady voice, "We are a team, coming from the space capsule. Lin Haoran, this is Yuhang and Yushi. Stand still, this light can last for a while, but you have to take turns to guard it. Who has a story? What's it like outside?" People poured in, and soon there were more than 20 people, men, women and children, carrying supplies dug out from subway stations and shopping malls. They gathered around the console and talked a lot. It has been 3 months since Yongya came, and Beijing has gone dark. Monsters eat people, and ghosts pull people into the walls. We hide in the sewers and only dare to come out when we hear the buzzing. A young girl with messy hair handed over a bottle of water. "Thank you. I heard that there's a big camp in the city center. Have you been there?" Yuhang distributed the fragments of the light ball and said in a rough voice, "Camp? We are united. Girls and men, don't panic. The boss has a plan. Let's join hands and keep the lights on." The atmosphere became lively. Some people shared old memories of Beijing roast duck, and some sang a ditty to relieve their fear. Lin Haoran saw this and felt that he had more responsibilities on his shoulders, but also more strength. From a lone cabin to a small team, and then to this group of people, he had changed and was no longer an engineer working alone. But the joy didn't last long. The aperture expanded, and resentment surged back like a tide. Yushi suddenly grabbed Lin Haoran's arm. "It's broken. The spirits are collectively angry. The light is too dazzling, and they regard it as a provocation. They sense hundreds of shadows crawling out from the ground, like a swarm of insects." As soon as he finished speaking, the whispers outside turned into roars, and the wind picked up gravel and smashed against the wall. At the edge of the aperture, pale hand shadows stretched. Ghosts no longer wandered alone, but in groups. Their faces were distorted into the appearance of the resentful ghosts in the ancient city of Beijing. Their robes were fluttering, their eyes were empty, and black mist came out of their mouths. "Repay me, my debt." The terror was overwhelming, and a survivor screamed, "Ghosts! They are coming!" The monsters were not mutated beasts, but pure spirits, invisible and bodiless, passing through the gaps in the wall and drilling into the edge of the aperture. The air was as cold as a tomb. An old man was grabbed by the shadow hand. His skin shriveled instantly and his eyes turned white. Save me." He fell to the ground and turned into ashes, with only his bones shining in the light. "Spread out. Yuhang, use sticks and lights. Newcomers, grab the iron pipe to block it." Lin Haoran shouted, grabbed the cable from the console, and modified it into a simple arc whip. The team was in chaos for a moment, but his voice was like an anchor, stabilizing people's hearts. Yuhang rushed forward, the iron rod swept through a cloud of black fog, the lights exploded, and the ghosts screamed and fled. "Come on, you haunting bastards. I'm a Beijing boy, don't be afraid." He injured his arm again, but his rough laughter inspired the people around him. Yushi ducked to Lin Haoran and said in a quick voice, "Haoran, the Spirit King is pushing the waves behind. They are angry because the light has lifted the cover of the eternal night. My secret. I have to tell you. I used to be a volunteer in the Forbidden City Library and found an ancient book from the Qing dynasty. The source of the prophecy is the shadow outside the sky, and the ancient spirit body was awakened by external forces. It was not a natural disaster, but interference. I came into contact with the prophecy book, and when the eternal night bit me, it gave me a sense, but it also left a mark. They recognized me, like a marked prey." Lin Haoran was shocked. While waving an arc whip to scatter a ghost, he asked, "Outside the sky? Like an alien?" The capsule data flashed in his mind. Before the emergency landing, the orbital station detected an abnormal signal, which was not from the Earth. The inner monologue is brief. To turn science fiction into reality, you have to dig deep. Go back to the cabin. The data can prove it. Yushi, you are not a burden, you are the key. During the battle, internal conflict emerged. A man who was a survivor, with a beard all over his face, yelled, "This woman talks about perception. She's lying. Her eyes are weird, she might attract ghosts." The crowd was shaken, and some people backed away. Yushi's face turned pale, but she didn't retreat. "Believe it or not, it's up to you. I hid it because I was afraid of being dragged down, and now the team has to work together." Yu Hang smashed the way with a stick, turned around and glared at the man. "Shut up. The girl just saved my life, and you kid hides behind and screams? Haoran, take care of it." Lin Haoran stopped his movements and his voice resounded through the hall. "Listen. We crawled out of the darkness, not infighting. Yushi's perception saved us, and I have the data to prove it. There are many ghosts outside, and it will be even worse if they are scattered inside. Work together, or it will be all over." His eyes were firm, scanning every face, like the command light of an orbital station. The man lowered his head and murmured, "Okay. I'll do whatever you want." The team reorganized, and the new survivors grabbed tools and joined in. The lights and sticks struck together, and the ghost retreated, but its roar became stronger, as if it was roaring in the eternal night. Lin Haoran took the opportunity to pull out the portable terminal and synchronize the data from the space capsule. The screen flashed, showing the high-frequency wave before the emergency landing. Not solar wind, but artificial pulse. The source pointed to the back of the moon. "Look! This signal is like an alien probe, stirring the geomagnetism and awakening spiritual bodies. Yongyi is not a ghost, but a science fiction disaster, an external force interfering with ancient grievances. Yushi's prediction is correct. We must join forces to dig out the source." The crowd of ghosts pressed in, the lights on the top of the tower swayed, and a giant shadow condensed outside the circle of light, shaped like a tornado. People's faces flashed inside, with mixed cries. "Light, destroy me." Yu Hang gasped, "Boss, this thing is big." "New partner, retreat into the tower, I'll block it." Yushi pulled Lin Haoran. "I sense it, it's afraid of the data light, use the terminal to scan." Lin Haoran nodded. The team squeezed into the control room, and the door slammed shut. The storm was raging outside and the walls were shaking, but the lights inside were tenacious. The door of the control room creaked under the impact of the storm, like the wooden windows of old Beijing protesting against the cold wind. There were more than 20 people crowded inside, and the sounds of breathing were mixed together. Some people squatted on the ground with their heads in their hands, while others grabbed the iron pipe and stared at the crack in the door. Lin Haoran leaned against the console, the blue light of the terminal screen reflected on his face, and he tapped quickly with his fingers to synchronize the AI module of the space capsule. "AI, scan the waveforms outside and predict the attack path. Don't let these ghosts take advantage of the loopholes." The terminal buzzed, and a synthesized voice sounded, as calm as the broadcast from the orbital station. "An abnormal electromagnetic pulse has been detected, originating from 50 meters underground. Path of the ghost storm, weak point in the southeast corner of the wall, expected to impact within 3 seconds. It is recommended to strengthen the light output and adjust the frequency to the edge of ultraviolet." "Did you hear that? Everyone, hurry up!" Lin Haoran shouted, turning to Yu Hang and nodding. "You lead people to block the southeast door and use the battery box as a baffle. Yushi, help me adjust the turbine and turn on the ultraviolet mode." Yu Hang grinned, and the wound on his arm was still there. He was dripping blood, but like a blind bear from the northeast, he pounced with his thick body and grabbed the 2 young guys. "You two, follow me. Don't tremble like rabbits. Raise the iron pipe and throw the light ball out. I will teach you how to fight these dirty things." Yushi leaned towards the console, flicked the switch with her finger, and the tear on her windbreaker swayed in the light. "Haoran, ultraviolet light will burn their resentment, but it will also consume power quickly. I feel, there are old spirits in the storm, like the ghosts of the Qing dynasty. They hate the light because the light revealed Yongye's face." Her eyes narrowed, and there was a hint of warmth in her voice. "Thank you for protecting me just now. The team is working together, I am not afraid anymore." Lin Haoran didn't look up, the formula flashed in his mind: power balance, don't burn out the turbine. An inner moment, the responsibility is heavy, but this is his track. from the single cabin to this group of people, he has to be steady. Stop talking nonsense, turn on. The turbine roared in a rising tone, the light on the top of the tower became dazzling, and the ultraviolet edge swept out, like an invisible whip whipping outside the door. There was a sharp roar outside, the giant shadow tornado hit the wall, and gravel rained down, but the AI's prediction was accurate. The baffle of the southeast door just happened to hold it, the light ball exploded, and the black fog shrieked and receded. Good job! A new girl, the one who handed the water just now, clapped her hands excitedly. Her name is Xiaowei, a native of Beijing. Her voice is crisp, boss, this AI looks like something from a science fiction movie. We thought Yongya was doomed. You guys fell from the sky and were like saviors. The crowd breathed a sigh of relief, and some people laughed and shared the water bottle. The stuffy heat in the air turned into a lively smell of sweat. After the storm, the power station hall was like a temporary camp. The survivors sat on the ground, lit small lamp balls and exchanged stories. Lin Haoran stood up, clapped his hands, and said loudly, "Listen, everyone. The lights are on, but Yongyi has not retreated. We have to expand this place and build a defense line. This is not a temporary hideout, but a real community. Yuhang, you are responsible for training the novices and teaching them cooperate with melee combat and lights. Yu Shi, you can explore the source of the spirit. I heard you refer to ancient books, and there may be clues. I will lead a few people to build a lighting network from the wall to the top of the tower, covering 300 meters. Who has any experience as an electrician?" A middle-aged uncle, the one carrying the child, raised his hand. "My name is Lao Zhang. I used to repair elevators. My son, Xiao Ming, is 7 years old. He doesn't know anything, but he can pass tools." Xiao Wei also stood up. "I can do it. I work in a shopping mall, and I can sew clothes and make up equipment for everyone." The crowd buzzed, and someone announced their home. "There is a teacher, a driver, and a retired old man." Lin Haoran nodded, and a warm current surged in his heart. From being alone in space to here, the leader relied on the help of others. He became tenacious and no longer hesitated. After the distribution, Yuhang pulled 5 or 6 novices to the side of the hall, using the iron stick as a pointer. "Come, brothers and sisters, in the eternal night, the stick is not a toy, but the lifeblood. Look!" He demonstrated swinging the stick, and the light ball was tied to the head of the stick, sweeping the air and making a buzzing sound. "The monster is coming. Don't run away, Xiao Wei. Try it, yes, use your arms as hard as eating skewers." Xiao Wei smiled and swung the stick crookedly, but her eyes lit up. "Brother, this feels like a martial arts movie. In the past, I only walked around Wangfujing, but now I am learning to fight ghosts." A tall and thin young man, the scumbag man just now, named Qiang, answered in a low voice. "Brother Yuhang, I was wrong just now. Sister Yushi's perception is accurate, I believe it. Teach me, my mother is still waiting." Yuhang patted him on the shoulder and said roughly, "Good job. Infighting will not end well, the team is like a family. Come, it's your turn. Oh, be gentle, the stick hit my foot." "Ha, it's like Northeastern wrestling." Lin Haoran took Lao Zhang and Xiao Ming outside the tower, pulled up cables, wired them from the capsule battery pack, and built a defense line. Strings of lights are hung on the walls, like New Year lanterns, but each one is connected to AI monitoring. "Old Zhang, the coil is wound tightly and the load is even. Yongyi lets the electromagnetic jump randomly, so it must be stable." Lao Zhang wiped his sweat and handed the tool to his son. "Haoran, you are young, but you are like a veteran. Son, learn from it, this is an engineer from New Beijing." Xiao Ming blinked. "Uncle, are you afraid of monsters when the light is on?" Lin Haoran squatted down and touched his head. "Afraid? What we build is not a lamp, but a home. Remember, in the dark, people's hearts shine brightest." While chatting while building, Lao Zhang talked about Yongya Qian. 3 months ago, I was working in Chaoyang district, and the sun was still fine. Suddenly it got dark, and the TV said a geomagnetic storm, and then monsters came out. I hid in the sewers, ate rats, and listened to ghosts cry like peking opera ghosts. Lin Haoran listened, and his heart was brief. The data is correct, the spirit body is awakened by external forces, and the roots must be dug. Old Zhang, is there a large camp in the city center? Yushi mentioned that there may be clues to historical sites near the Forbidden City. Here, Yushi sneaked alone to the ruins behind the power station, her LED light belt glimmering to protect herself. She closed her eyes and sensed that her windbreaker was fluttering in the night wind. The veins of resentment come from the north, like a rope. Her fingers touched the broken wall, and an image from an ancient book flashed in her mind, a hand scroll from the Qing dynasty, depicting the place where the spirit body is sealed underground in the ancient city of Beijing. The shadow outside the sky is not the moon, but something older. I sense that there are stone tablets in the Donghua Gate ruins with prophecies engraved on them. I have to go and see it. She turned back to the camp, her face solemn, but there was determination in her eyes. After sharing the secret, she was no longer alone. Afternoon, never night or day, but the AI timing says it is. The team meets up. The hall is lively. Someone is boiling water to make instant noodles. The aroma is fragrant, just like an old alley food stall. After the training, Yuheng wiped his sweat and came in. Boss, novices. Aqiang, that guy, his stick skills are like the reincarnation of Guangong. Xiaowei said that he will form a female team to smash ghost claws. Yushi interjected, I found out. The origin of the spirit body is not random, the source of eternal night is underground in the ancient city of Beijing. Ancient books say that the shadow spirit was broken by external forces, like a space signal. There are ruins in the Donghua Gate, and the stone tablet can unlock the weakness. But be careful, because the resentment is strong. Lin Haoran nodded and called everyone together. Good clues. Tomorrow the team will go on an expedition. Me, Yuheng, and Yushi will go, others will guard the camp and practice defense lines. The community has started, the lights are connected, we are not just living, but living out hope. Everyone applauded, and Aqiang shouted, Boss, bring local products back. The ghosts of Peking duck won't eat it. Laughter rang out, easing the coldness in the air. But there will be no respite in the night. At night, marked as late by the AI, the sudden ghost storm comes again. This time it's not a tornado, it's a fine mist, seeping in from the cracks in the ground, like Beijing's smog turning poisonous. The light defense line came on, but the fog passed around and penetrated to the edge of the camp. An old man screamed, entangled in the fog, his skin blistered, cold, they bite. The new survivors panicked, and some backed away. AI, prediction. Lin Haoran grabbed the terminal, and the screen flashed, fog path, northwest corner loophole, attack frequency is 1 wave every 10 seconds. It is recommended to use laser strafing, combined with Yushi's perception. He shouted, Aerospace, lead the training team to block the northwest. Use a stick light to sweep away the fog. Xiaowei, Lao Zhang, use UV defense. Yushi, point out the weakness. Yuheng rushed out and waved his stick, come on, you bastards in the fog. Follow me, don't forget what I just taught you. Aqiang and Xiaowei stood side by side, and the light ball burst into the fog, and the ghosts wailed. Yushi dodged and felt like a radar. The three on the left, the resentful spirits are from the Ming dynasty, afraid of fire. Haoran, use electric arc. Lin Haoran modified a whip and whipped it away. The fog dispersed, revealing a pale face, like an innocent ghost in a painting of the Forbidden City. The team cooperated tacitly, and the novices no longer messed up. Someone shouted, smash. It's like swatting a fly. In the storm, Lin Haoran thought in his heart, he has grown up. From repairing the cabin to leading the battle, his hands are steady and his heart is more steady. The mist gradually weakened, but a dense black mass, shaped like a human figure, whispered, light. Det. Yushi's face changed, this is the central spirit. It knows the clues to the ruins, so I have to ask. She stepped forward, her perception was like a net covering it, say. What is the shadow outside the sky? The black shadow trembled, and spat out intermittently, outer, domain, pulse, broken seal. Donghua, monument. Then it collapsed, and the storm stopped. The campground fell silent, people catching their breath and tapping each other on the shoulders. Lin Haoran put away the terminal. Good job. The ruins are interesting. Let's set off tomorrow. Rest and keep the lights in turn. You hang past the water, boss. You are becoming more and more like the boss. The community is stable. Let's light up the eternal night in Beijing. Yushi smiled. Haoran, thank you for trusting me. I have found my roots in the team. Lin Haoran nodded, watching everyone sleeping on the ground. The lights were softly sprinkled, knowing, we are halfway. The road is still long, but the strength is surging. The air of the eternal night still retains the cold smell of fog, and the lights in the power station camp are like tenacious candles, reflecting the tired but determined faces of the survivors. Lin Haoran stood up straight from the console and rubbed his temples. The storm last night kept him awake all night, but the surging power in his heart kept him from feeling tired. The AI's screen was still flashing residual data. He turned around and saw Yuhang checking the equipment, while Yushi was whispering to himself in the corner, as if talking to the air. Boss, everything is ready. Yuhang came over, carrying a modified iron rod on his shoulder, with an LED light strip tied to the end of the rod, and the battery pack was bulging like a package from northern Xinjiang. The clue that the Black Shadow spit out last night, the ruins of Donghua Gate? It sounds like the underground palace of old Beijing. When I was a child, I heard from my grandfather that there is a secret passage under the Forbidden City, which hides the secrets of the Ming and Qing dynasties. The three of us will go and travel lightly? Lin Haoran nodded and patted him on the shoulder. Yes, it's just the three of us. Lao Zhan and Xiao Wei are left guarding the camp, and their newly learned defense line can withstand it for a while. Yushi, are you accurate? Last night the spirit said outer domain pulse break, which sounded like a space signal poking a hornet's nest. He turned to Yushi. The rip in her windbreaker had been mended by Xiao Wei. It looked like an old Shanghai windbreaker, with a bit of a retro flavor. Yushi raised her head, with a glint in her eyes. Yes. The veins of resentment converged from Donghua Gate, like Beijing's underground river, hiding its source. I can feel their pulse, but I have to get close to force out the truth. She paused, and her voice lowered. Haoran, if something changes, do you believe me? Trust. Last night you interrogated the central spirit and saved everyone. Lin Haoran said firmly, and a flash occurred in his heart. Trust is the light of the team and must be protected. He called everyone to the center of the hall, where the survivors formed a circle and someone handed them a hot water bottle. Listen, let's go explore the ruins and bring back information about the weaknesses. We will take turns to keep the lights at the camp and don't let the fog take advantage of us again. Aqiang, take the novices to patrol the wall. Xiao Wei, keep up with the supplies. Don't panic before you come back. Aqiang stood up and held the stick tightly. Boss, don't worry. I practiced for half a night last night. I practiced the stick technique taught by Brother Yuhang, smashing ghosts and doing Tai Chi, integrating the inside and outside. I will bring you local products from Beijing back to you. Oh, antiques in the ruins. Everyone laughed, and Xiao Wei blinked. Brother Haoran, be careful on the road. Sister Yushi, if you feel something happens, call out, we will support you from behind. When setting off, the night wind was like a ghost's whisper. The three members of the team slipped out of the back door of the power station and walked along the abandoned streets of Beijing. Lin Haoran carried the portable terminal of the space capsule on his back, and the AI module buzzed to scan the path. 2 kilometers ahead, at the entrance to the Donghuimen ruins, the geomagnetic anomaly value increased by 30%. It is recommended to avoid the surface and enter the underground passage to reduce exposure. Yuhang opened the way in front, and the iron rod swept away the broken branches. Boss, this AI is like a tour guide in old Beijing, as accurate as the Gouda map. Yushi, is the underground river you mentioned like the Yinan Palace in the Forbidden City? Yushi nodded and led them into a collapsed alley. Under their feet was the brick road of old Beijing, and black mist seeped out of the cracks. Yes, it is written in ancient books that there is a secret passage in the Donghua Gate from the Ming dynasty, which connects to the underground of the Forbidden City. Resentment leaks out from there, like a seal that has been pried open by some external force. She touched the wall lightly with her fingers, feeling like a thin thread peeking in. We are close. The entrance to the passage is in front, under the ruins of a broken well. They pried open a sloping stone slab, revealing a staircase winding downwards, as dark as a bottomless pit. Lin Haoran turned on the headlight, and the blue and white beams pierced the darkness. AI, synchronized light frequency, ultraviolet edge backup. Take it step by step, don't miss the mark. Yuhang grinned. This place is like a mine in the northeast. I explored it when I was a child. It was windy and full of ghost stories. Let's go, buddy. The passage was damp and hot, the walls were covered with mold, and the air was filled with an earthy and decaying smell, like mold in the basement of an old courtyard house. The sound of footsteps echoed, and the three of them chatted in low voices to relieve their depression. Yuhang knocked on the iron rod. Yushi, how did you get this perception? When you forced the spirit last night, your eyes were like Qingyi in Peking opera, making them tremble when you sang. Yushi smiled and said in a soft voice, it's a family legacy. My grandfather was a researcher at the Forbidden City. He taught me to read ancient books and said that there's aura in the blood and I can hear the whispers of resentful souls. But when Yonya came, they became wild. Lin Haoran listened, and his heart was brief. Her secrets are like the dark cabin of a space capsule, which must be opened slowly. He asked, ancient books mention shadows outside the sky? It sounds like a solar storm at an orbital station, but the eternal night is dark. Before he finished speaking, a low roar suddenly sounded from deep in the passage, like muffled thunder from a bellows. The AI alert was sharp, detecting powerful spirits. The energy peak exceeds the standard by 200%. Form, guardian type, similar to ancient war spirits, with unknown weaknesses. It is recommended to retreat. But it was too late. A huge black shadow emerged from the gap in the wall, shaped like a twisted warrior, with iron chains wrapped around its body. Its face was as pale as Ming Dynasty porcelain, and its eyes were red and staring at them. Intruders, sealed, not allowed. Fuck. This thing is like the terracotta warriors of Qin Shi Huang come to life. Yuhang cursed, the iron rod swept across, and the light exploded with white light, but the black shadow flashed, and the iron chain whipped out like a whip, smashing the wall and causing gravel to fly. Lin Haoran dodged and Lai Yushi stepped back. AI, scan for weaknesses. Turn on UV. The terminal buzzed and the light turned to UV, but the Guardian roared, the fog rose up and blocked the beam, and the passage shook, like a Beijing subway collapse. Yushi's face turned pale, and her senses were like needles pricking her brain. It's a guardian spirit. The Imperial Guard of the Ming Dynasty, guarding the inscription. But it recognizes me. She took a step forward, and the black shadow suddenly stopped, staring at her with red eyes, whispering, blood, veins, traitor. Yushi bit his lip, and his voice trembled. Haoran, Yuhang, listen to me. I am not an ordinary person. My grandfather's bloodline is mixed with the shadow of the spirit body. Before the night, I heard their voices, like a family curse. The ancient books said that our ancestors were sealed watchers, but when the outer world pulse came, they woke up, and I may have caused disaster. Yuhang was stunned and lowered his iron rod. What? Yushi, are you half a ghost? When the fog came last night, I thought you had a strange look in your eyes. There is such a secret in this team, we should have told you earlier. His voice was rude, with the anger of a northeastern man, and the lights in the passage made his face blush, as if he had drunk too much herbwotu. Lin Haoran's heart tightened, and his heart flashed. The crisis is coming, be safe. He stood in front of Yushi and said in a steady voice, Yuhang, stop. She saved the camp last night, and her senses forced out clues. This is her burden, not the bomb. Who doesn't have secrets in the eternal night? My space capsule fell down, and it also hid the data black box of the orbital station. The team is not an interrogation room, but a backup. Trusting her is like trusting the predictions of AI. Yuhang gasped and glared at the black shadow. Boss, you are right. I am reckless. Yushi, I believe in you. come and smash this bastard. Yushi's eyes were wet and he nodded, thank you. Haoran, you can always light the way. She closed her eyes, and her perception expanded like a web. The weakness is at the core of the iron chain, where resentment is nucleated. Yuhang, get close and break the chain. Haoran, use the arc whip to hit the core. The guardian roared and rushed forward, sweeping the iron chain. Yuhang rolled in like a northeastern wrestler, and slammed the iron rod on the chain. Eat my stick. You porcelain figurine, I will smash you. The lights exploded, the chain broke, and the black mist screamed. Lin Haoran threw out the modified arc whip, and the blue lightning hit the core like lightning. The guardian trembled and wailed like a peaking opera, pulse, out of the sky, break my seal. Yushi quickly dodged and sensed and guided, come again. It's going to tell the truth. The three of them cooperated tacitly. Yuhang withstood the melee battle, and the stick light swept away the fog, like a group of heroes in a martial arts movie breaking the formation. Lin Haoran assisted with technology, AI adjusted the frequency in real time, and the arc whip made the passage as bright as day. The guardian finally disintegrated and turned into black smoke, leaving behind a fragment of a stone tablet covered with ancient inscriptions. Yushi picked it up and read with a breath, shadow spirits originate from ancient times and are sealed under Yenshan Mountain. Pulses from the outside world like star signals awaken resentments and eternal night falls. Haoran, this explains it. It's not a natural disaster, it's science fiction plus supernatural. The solar storm pulse from the orbital station accidentally broke the underground seal, like activating an ancient virus with a laser. Lin Haoran took the fragment, scanned it through the terminal, and transcoded the ancient text into data. AI confirmed that the pulse frequency matches the emergency signal of my cabin. Yonya is not a ghost, but a spirit summoned by out-of-control technology. There's also a map on the monument, pointing to a larger seal, the heart of the Forbidden City. He looked at Yushi and Yuhang and said loudly, the crisis is over, and we are more united. Yushi, your bloodline is the key, not the burden. Let's take this record and share the mystery of Yongyi. There was light at the end of the passage, and the three of them walked forward. The resentment in the air became lighter, but there were faint whispers echoing in front of them, like the old city of Beijing telling unfinished stories. The dim light at the end of the passage gradually expanded, and the three of them climbed out of the collapsed exit and stepped onto the ruins of the old city of Beijing again. The eternal night wind is mixed with distant whispers, like old people in the alley talking about old things. Lin Haoran wiped the sweat from his forehead. The AI on the terminal was still buzzing and analyzing the fragments of the stone tablet. The map data has been synchronized. The route back to the camp, go west along the Chang'an Street ruins, avoiding the main road. It is expected to take 3 hours. The concentration of resentment has dropped by 15%, but the frequency of activity of surrounding spiritual bodies has increased. It is recommended to maintain a light circle. I'm finally out. The smell of the underground palace makes my head buzz, like I drank fake ergotu. Yuhang swung the iron rod, and the LED light bar on the tip of the rod was still flashing, making the new scratch on his face look like a peaking opera mask. Yushi, what you just sensed is simply the compass of the team. Grandpa's bloodline? It sounds like the legend of old Beijing, the sealed watcher or something. I wronged you. If you have anything to say in the future, please tell me directly. We northeastern men are open-minded and will never settle old scores. Yushi smiled and rolled up the sleeves of her windbreaker, revealing the faintly glowing lines on her wrists, like ancient tattoos. Thank you, Yuhang. Grandpa always said that our ancestors were descendants of the imperial guards of the Ming dynasty, guarding the underground seal of the Forbidden City. But when Yonya came, those resentful spirits regarded me as a traitor and kept a close eye on me. Haoran, your arc whip saved the day. Technology and bloodline, this combination is invincible. She turned to Lin Haoran, the gratitude in her eyes was like the Qingming after the mist. Lin Haoran nodded. The portable terminal on his back was as heavy as an old Beijing bookcase. Invincibility is out of the question, but the team works together, and Yonya has to give way. Let's go back to the camp to share this inscription. Lao Zhang and the others are guarding the power station, and they must be waiting impatiently. AI, skin a path ahead, are there any ambush? A synthesized voice sounded from the terminal. 1 kilometer ahead, the surface is stable, but sporadic spiritual bodies have been detected wandering. It is recommended to proceed in a low-key manner and adjust the lights to low frequency. The three of them walked along the abandoned Chang'an Avenue. Under their feet was the cracked asphalt road. The tall buildings on both sides looked like leaning giants, and the windows were as dark as open mouths. Yu Hang went ahead to explore the road, tapping the iron rod on the ground, and listened to the sound to identify the location. Boss, this street seems to have changed. It used to be bustling with traffic during the rush hour, but now it is as quiet as Wangfujing at midnight. Yushi, did you sense anything? The outer space pulse that the Guardian spit out just now sounds like the hole poked by your space capsule. Yes, the AI data matched. Lin Haoran said as he walked, and his heart flashed. This mystery is getting bigger and bigger, and the team must be stabilized. The solar storm signal from the orbital station accidentally activated the ancient seal underground. It was not a ghost, but a science fiction version of Pandora's box. After returning to the camp, I modified the cabin and tried to emit small signals to gather scattered survivors. Light is hope, and the circle must be expanded. Yushi suddenly stopped and put her hand on her forehead. Wait a minute. Resentment is coming. It's not sporadic, it's like a tide, pushing in from the east. The seal of Donghua Gate is broken, and the spirits are fighting back. Her voice was urgent and her eyes were narrowed, as if she was listening to an invisible broadcast. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp whistle sounded in the air, like the north wind in Beijing in winter mixed with the cry of ghosts. Black mist rolled in the distance, and several twisted figures emerged, not a single guardian, but the afterimages of a group of spirit bodies, shaped like broken palace soldiers, with iron chains dragging the ground, making a clanking sound. They rushed towards them, and the mist was mixed with mutant hunters. Those monsters that were once stray dogs on the streets now have bone spurs and green eyes, like wild foxes in the eternal night. Damn! The counterattack is coming. Are these porcelain figurine fragments bringing brothers with them? Yu Hang yelled, sweeping the iron rod, and the LED light exploded with white light, forcing the nearest spirit body back. But the fog was too thick and the beam was swallowed up. An iron chain whip came out and hit the battery pack on his shoulder. With a snap, the light bar shattered, and darkness instantly swallowed half of the field of vision. Boss, the light is broken. Get out. Lin Haoran's heart tightened, and he pulled up Yushi. AI, emergency mode. Ultraviolet scan, mark the retreat. The terminal buzzed, and the blue light circle expanded, but the group of spirits surged up like a tide, and a mutant hunter rushed towards Yu Hang, and the bone spurs cut across his arms like knives, and the blood instantly stained his sleeves red. Yu Hang grunted and hit the monster away with a backhand stick. You dare to bite the northeastern wolf, you little brat? Yushi, you sense the weakness, I won't be able to withstand it for long. Yushi gasped, feeling like a needle poking into the fog. The core of the spirit body is in the iron chain, and it will scatter when the chain is broken. But the hunter is a physical entity, and his weak point is his eyes, and the light shines directly. Haoran, there is a light in the direction of the camp, but the fog blocks the way, so we have to go around a small alley. She quickly dodged, flicking her windbreaker, and diverted a spirit body. Lin Haoran took the opportunity to throw out the arc whip, and the blue lightning broke the two iron chains, and the black mist collapsed with a hiss. The three of them fought and retreated, and the streets of Yongya turned into a battlefield. Lin Haoran thought briefly. Lighting is the lifeblood and must be preserved. He shouted, Yu Hang, protect the flanks. Yushi, lead the way. Don't fight hard, retreat strategically, use the fog as a cover, like guerrilla warfare. Yu Hang gritted his teeth, his arms were bleeding profusely, but his eyes were fierce. Understood. When I was hunting, I smashed all the wild boars in the pig pen. Come on, you palace ghosts, I will play with you. He swept away a hunter with the corner of his stick light, his green eyes exploded, and the monster wailed and retreated. During the retreat, the spirit body counterattacked even more fiercely, and a black mist rushed directly towards their light source. Lin Haoran's headlamp was hit by the iron chain, and there was a shattering sound. The darkness rushed towards him like a wild beast, with only the dim light of the terminal remaining for support. Damn it, 20% of the lights were destroyed. There is still 1 kilometer to the camp, but the fog is too thick and there is zero visibility. Yushi took his arm. Haoran, hold on. I can sense the lights of the camp, but there is a gap in the middle, and I have to reorganize the defense line. Your space capsule, can it be modified? Lin Haoran flashed the blueprint of the capsule in his mind and nodded, yes. Go back to the edge of the camp and send the signal light first. AI, switch to backup power and prepare a small pulse module. They turned into a narrow alley like the back alley of a courtyard, temporarily throwing off the pursuers. Yuhang gasped against the wall and tore a strip of cloth to wrap the injury. Boss, this injury is fine, the bleeding has stopped. These monsters seem to have listened to the order and are specifically smashing the lights. We must learn Yongya's strategy, spread the light source and don't throw all the eggs in the basket. The camp was vaguely visible, and the lights of the power station were like a beacon in the distance, but the surrounding fog was billowing, and Lao Zhang's shout came, Boss. Is it you? There is something in the fog, and the wall can't hold it. Lin Haoran and the 3 rushed out of the alley, with the spirit bodies chasing after them. A mutant hunter jumped onto the wall, bone spurs pierced an edge light bulb, the glass shattered, and the darkness gap expanded instantly. Aqiang waved his stick and said, Brother Yuhang. Hit it in the eye. Xiaowei handed over a spare battery from behind. Brother Haoran, the light cord is broken, hurry up and connect it. In the melee, Lin Haoran rushed into the wreckage of the space capsule, with the door half open. He pried open the console, and quickly modified it with his hands. AI, synchronized pulse frequency. Used the cabin's solar panels to emit small signal lights, like fireworks, but with ultraviolet light, to guide scattered people. The terminal flashed, and data streams emerged like code words. He pulled out the antenna module and connected it to the LED core. With a buzz, a small transmitter popped out of the cabin roof. Lin Haoran pressed the button, and a blue-white light beam shot up into the sky, like fireworks in Beijing, but it carried pulse waves, sweeping away the fog and marking a safe path. It's done! The signal light is locked on the surrounding 5 kilometers to attract survivors to the camp. Lin Haoran shouted, turned around and swung the arc whip to whip the flying spirits. At this time, Yuhang faced the largest mutant hunter. The monster was like a mutated Pekingese, doubled in size, staring at him with green eyes and growling. Yuhang grinned, come on, you beast. Brother's stick technique is designed to treat you, a green-eyed wolf. He rolled in short, and the iron stick poked his eyes, and the monster screamed and retreated, but the bone spurs struck back, and Yuhang's shoulder received a new injury. Yushi's senses were fully activated, and her voice rang out in the noise. Haoran, there is a new light source to the north of the signal light. In the old factory area, there is a generator left behind, and the resentment is weak, which can make up for our losses. But hurry, the spirits are gathering. She ducked to lead the way, her windbreaker fluttering like a flag. Aqiang and Xiaowei followed, and the stick lights formed a temporary circle. Lao Zhang shouted from the tower, Boss, the wall is stable. The new survivors were attracted by the signal. 3 of them, locals from Beijing, brought gasoline lamps. In a crisis, teams reorganized like gears meshing. Lin Haoran watched Yuhang resist the hunter, and a warm current surged in his heart. This is resilience, from secret to side by side. Yuhang, change positions. Yushi, is the positioning accurate? Let's rush to the factory and replace the light source. Yuhang knocked the monster away with a stick, panting and laughing, accurate. Boss, your modification is like magic, a missile in the eternal night. Let's go, I will protect your backs. The whispers of the spirits still echoed, but the beams of light pierced the fog like beacons. The team retreated and fought back, their footsteps echoing in the ruins, pointing towards the factory area of New Hope. The beam of light was like a sharp sword, piercing the thick fog of the eternal night, and the team's footsteps made a rapid rhythm in the ruins. Lin Haoran led the way. The arc whip was slightly hot on his wrist, and his peripheral vision glanced at Yu Hang's wounds. Although the guy's sleeves were stained with blood, he was still smiling through gritted teeth, and the iron rods hit the ground, like the gongs and drums of old Beijing urging people to go to the market. "Boss, this signal light is awesome. There are faint torches swaying in the fog, and the newcomers are here. The factory area is just ahead." Listening to the buzzing sound, it is probably the old generator wheezing. Yushi followed beside her, feeling invisible tentacles reaching forward. Yes, the resentment is a little weaker, but there is something moving in the industrial area. It's not a sporadic spirit body, it's like guarding some treasure. "Haoran, your pulse module has stabilized the fog, but be careful, the aftermath of the seal is still there." She glanced at the 3 new survivors, 2 middle-aged men and a young girl. The gasoline lamps in their hands were swaying, and their faces were full of shock at the aftermath of the disaster. Lao Zhang shouted from behind, "Boss, these people said they came here from Dongximen." When they heard the light beam, they followed. "There's a lot of gasoline, so I can cover my position." Lin Haoran nodded and thought, the team has grown and must be stabilized. "Welcome to join, follow the light circle first. AI, scan the entrance to the industrial zone, mark the location of the components." The terminal whispered, "A large metal structure has been detected, matching the prototype of the lighthouse base. The distance is 500 meters, and the concentration of resentment in the path is medium. It is recommended to disperse the light sources to explore the path." They turned around a pile of collapsed factory walls, and the shadow of Beijing's old industrial area reappeared in front of them. The rusty iron door was half open, and inside were broken conveyor belts and scattered machine tools, like Lego bricks stepped on by giants. The wind carried a rusty smell, mixed with distant whispers, like the ghosts of workers complaining about overtime. Yu Hang waved his stick and led Aqiang and Xiaowei to clear the way. "Brothers, listen up. This place used to be a steel mill, but now it's a monster nest. Leave the stick and lantern in your hand and keep an eye on the shadow." "Sister Yushi, what do you sense?" Yushi closed her eyes for a moment, frowning slightly. "There are spirits guarding it, but they are not running around. It's like the soul of an ancient craftsman, guarding the machine after resurrecting. The source of resentment is in the central warehouse, where there are components of the giant lighthouse, reflectors and power cores, dug from the lighthouse ruins of old Beijing. The new girl's name is Xiaoli." She panted and handed over the gasoline lantern. "Thank you for the signal, otherwise we would still be wandering in the alley. I heard that this eternal night is the gate of hell that has opened. In the legend of my hometown in Hebei, there is an old spirit called the Yi Huang who specializes in the underworld." "Dark." Lin Haoran heard this and thought, "Yi Huang? AI, cross data." The terminal flashed, matching ancient records. There was a seal in the underground of Beijing during the Ming and Qing dynasties, and it may be the trigger for the resurgence of an ancient spiritual body. They pushed open the warehouse door, and the inside was as dark as a gaping mouth, with broken glass and broken wires beneath their feet. Yu Hang's stick light swept across, and a figure emerged, not a hunter, but a translucent ghost of a craftsman, holding a rusty wrench in his hand, his eyes flickering like candlelight. "Intruder! Light thief!" The ghost roared, his voice like the noise of an old radio, with the accent of a Beijing movie. More shadows came, about a dozen of them, shaped like mutated blacksmiths, with chains and wires wrapped around their bodies, shuffling towards them. "Damn! Are these factory ghosts? Seriously?" Yu Hang yelled, sweeping the iron rod and exploding LED lights, forcing the nearest one back. But the ghost was flexible and swung out the wrench, hitting Aqiang's light bulb. There was a shattering sound, and darkness took a bite instantly. Xiaowei screamed, "Aqiang!" She rushed to hand over the battery, and Aqiang gritted his teeth and fought back. "It's okay, sisters, pick it up." Lin Haoran swung out the arc whip, and the blue electricity hit the core of a ghost shadow, the iron plate on the chest. With a snap, the shadow collapsed into mist. "The weak point is the metal heart. Everyone aim there." Yushi sensed the tide. Yushi dodged to avoid a chain, swung out her windbreaker, and lured the two away. Haoran, these spirits are not messing around, they are protecting the lighthouse components. The Night Emperor's servants used the industrial area as their lair after reviving. She gasped, hesitation flashed in her eyes, and her heart tightened. It's time to speak, and we can no longer hide it. During the battle, she shouted, "Stop! Everyone listen to me. My secret. Grandpa's bloodline is not simply a seal, our ancestors are the sealers of the Night Emperor. Eternal night is not a natural disaster, it is the ancient spirit crawling out of the ground." The pulse of the space capsule pierced the last seal like Beijing's underground river, bursting its banks. The words were earth-shattering. Yuhang smashed a ghost figure away with a stick, turned around and shouted, "What? Night Emperor? Sister Yushi, you should have told me earlier. I don't blame you, now tell me everything, let's smash this old ghost together." A warm current of trust surged in Lin Haoran's heart. "Whip twice, Yushi, thank you. AI, record, the source of the Night Emperor's resurrection is confirmed. Team, cooperate. Lao Zhang, you and Xiaoli guard the door, connect the power line. Yuhang, Aqiang, clear the road in close combat, Yushi and I go straight to the core." After hearing Yushi's words, the ghosts seemed to be irritated and roared even louder, "Traitor's bloodline. The lights will be extinguished." A leading craftsman's spirit body swelled up, and wires stretched out from its body like tentacles, wrapping around Yushi. The turning point comes suddenly, a new threat emerges from the mist, not a mere ghost, but a fusion, a half-spirit, half-machine monster, like an old generator that has mutated, with a rusty body, green eyes flashing inside, and a humming sound of electricity. The guardian machine soul of the Night Emperor. Yushi screamed, sensing its weakness, "Power box. Haoran, use your whip to cut off the power." Lin Haoran rushed forward, and the arc whip sprang out like a blue snake, hitting the switch box on the monster's chest. Electric currents collided, sparks flew everywhere, monsters wailed, tentacles swung around, and several light sources were swept away. Yuhang pounced and hit the green eyes with the iron rod. "Boss, hold on. This thing is like a substation ghost in the northeast, specializing in chewing wires." He and Aqiang cooperated, poking the eyes left and right. Green light burst, and the monster's body cracked open, revealing the lighthouse component inside, a giant reflector, with ancient runes engraved on the surface, and a power core next to it, buzzing and ready for use. Xiaowei and Xiaoli handed over tools from behind. "Brother Haoran, the wires are connected. The gasoline lamp stabilizes the circle." Lao Zhang gasped, "Young man, this mirror is as big as the Tiananmen mirror, it can reflect light thousands of miles." Yushi took advantage of the confusion to explain, "The Night Emperor is originally the resentful spirit of the Ming dynasty, fell into the ground when the dynasty collapsed. When Grandpa sealed it, he left a bloodline clue, just for this moment. Haoran, integrate it. This is the heart of the prototype lighthouse." Lin Haoran knelt down, quickly connected the wires with his hands, and projected the blueprint on the terminal. AI, synchronization frequency. The pulse module of the space capsule, add a reflector, and use industrial legacy ultraviolet light diffusion as the power supply core to build a medium-sized light network. His heart was brief. This was a turning point. From secret to joint effort, the team was connected like a light. With flexible fingers, the wires were connected like blood vessels. With a buzzing sound, the reflector lit up and a blue-white beam of light shot out from the warehouse, sweeping away the remaining ghosts. The leading spirit screamed, "No! Lighthouse, General Night Emperor!" It collapsed and the mist receded. The beam expanded, like a laser show in Beijing, tearing open the eternal night. Torches and lights came from a distance, and a large number of survivors emerged, 20 or 30 people coming from all corners of the ruins, holding simple lamps, shouting, "Light! It's a light of hope!" Photographed by the spacecraft, Lin Haoran shouldered, "Boss, it's done. The prototype lighthouse has just started. Now, Yongya trembles 3 times. Yushi smiled, with moist eyes, "Thank you for trusting me. Half of the truth about the Night Emperor has been solved, but the counterattack will come. Haoran, the next part, the whole team of the giant lighthouse? Lin Haoran stood up, looked at the gathering crowd, and felt determined. I grew up in this light. Yes, the whole team. But first, stabilize the position. The newcomers will be divided into groups and replenish the light source. Yuhang, you will lead the patrol. Yushi, teach them the basics of perception. AI, monitor the aftermath of the Night Emperor. In the crowd, an old man raised a lamp and stepped forward. Young man, this light saved us. It was brought from Chaoyang district. I heard there is a big lighthouse. Lin Haoran nodded. Yes, we will build it here. Join us and light up the eternal night together. Outside the warehouse, the circle of lights expanded, and survivors sat around, sharing gasoline and stories. Yuhang hugged his wounds and laughed loudly. In northeastern dialect, this is called starting a prairie fire with one heart. Sister Yushi, your secret is like old wine, the more it gets fragrant with age. Aqiang handed over the water. Boss, the prototype is stable, but there is movement on the edge of the fog, like the eyes and ears of the Night Emperor. Yushi's perception flashed. Yes, a small group of spies are coming. But we have a lighthouse, so we can stop it. Haoran, are you going to modify the next wave? Lin Haoran looked at the glow of the reflector, the team's laughter in his ears, and his footsteps were already pointing deeper into the industrial maze, where the final giant components were hidden. Lin Haoran's eyes moved away from the blue-white glow of the reflector and scanned the gradually expanding circle of lights outside the warehouse. The new survivors, about 30 people in total, ranging from old men to young men, were crowded around gasoline lanterns and LED sticks, their faces illuminated by firelight. Some whispered ghost stories about the alley, and some handed over half-filled bottles of water. The atmosphere was as lively as the new year but also wary. Yuhang's laughter was still echoing in his ears. He patted his injured shoulder and said with a northeastern accent as thick as Lao Jiang, Boss, what I said about starting a prairie fire with one heart is right. As soon as this prototype lighthouse lights up, the old man Night Emperor must be greedy. Let's dig deep into the industrial maze to find those giant components. Yushi nodded, her homemade rune talisman faintly flashing under her windbreaker. Haoran, I sense a big movement deep in the maze. Resentment is like a tide, and the eyes and ears of the Night Emperor are gathering. But the base of the lighthouse is there, the steel frame left over from old Beijing, enough to support a 1,000-meter beam of light. She turned to Shelley and Lao Zhang. Lao Zhang, you are an electrician. Top, take Shelley to connect to the power grid. Newbies, listen to Sister Yushi and learn the basics first. Close your eyes and feel the cold wind in the alley in winter. Shelley gasped and nodded, holding on to the gasoline lamp. Sister, I heard the legend of the Night Emperor in my hometown in Hebei, and now I believe it. Lin Haoran smiled, and the terminal buzzed on his wrist. Yes. AI, path optimization, 300 meters from the entrance of the maze, avoid the main conveyor belt, mark the giant steel frame and enhanced mirror array. His heart flashed. The team has grown, and the responsibilities are as heavy as lights, but this is a change, from a solitary cabin to a network of lights for everyone. In the crowd, a bearded man stood up. My name is Daniel, I got it from Shidan, I know how to solder iron. Boss, count me in. Lin Haoran patted him on the shoulder. Welcome. Everyone, move forward in groups. Yuhang leads the melee, Yushi and I, Lao Zhang provides the logistics. The newcomers follow the light circle closely and learn as they go. They set off, stepping through the ruins of the industrial maze. The shadows of Beijing's old factories stretched under the light, like dragon spines in the maze. The smell of rust is stronger in the air, mixed with a low hum, the sound of distant generators. Yuhang opened the way in front, and the iron rod light swept away the shadows. Brothers, listen. This maze used to be a steel faucet, but now it has become the back garden of the Night Emperor. Aqiang, is there any movement in the pile of iron filings on the left? Aqiang waved his stick to test. Brother, it's okay, it's just the wind. But it's cool in the fog, as if someone is watching. Yushi suddenly stopped and frowned. Haoran, wait a minute. I sensed a large-scale surge of resentment. It's not a small group of spies, it's the tide. The Night Emperor counterattacked, crawled out of the cracks in the ground, and locked in our lighthouse plan. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground trembled, like the aftershocks of a Beijing subway station. The mist rolled like living creatures, and countless ghosts emerged from the depths of the maze, not just craftsman ghosts, but this time the fusion army, half-human, half-machine monsters, with wires and chains wrapped around their bodies, green eyes like wolves, leading a giant spirit shaped like the incarnation of the Night King, with black robes floating, and claws clawing at the ground, making a metallic friction sound. Lamp bug! The Night Emperor's eternal night must not be tarnished. It roared, its voice was like the voice of a peaking opera ghost, filled with ancient resentment. Damn! The army is coming! Yu Hang yelled, sweeping the iron rod and exploding LED lights, forcing the three forwards to retreat. But there was a flood of monsters, more than a dozen of them pounced on him, throwing out electric arcs from their tentacles, hitting Daniel's light source, causing broken glass to fly. Daniel groaned and fell to the ground. Boss, I'm good at welding, but I can't handle this. Xiaowei rushed forward, mended her toolkit and threw out a temporary bandage. Brother Daniel, hold on. Xiaoli, put the gasoline lamp on top. Lao Zhang shouted from behind, don't cut the power cord. Haoran, the base is 50 meters ahead, and the steel frame is hidden in the fog. Lin Haoran threw out the arc whip, and the blue lightning dispersed the cores of the two monsters. Team, circle defense. The newcomers stand back. Lao Zhang takes over the steel frame. I repair the system. Yushi, seal the edge. His heart was tense. This is a test. Leaders don't just talk, they must use actions to light up hope. The whip flashes continuously to protect the central path, and the terminal projects a blueprint. The giant lighthouse needs to integrate the steel frame, enhanced mirror array and space capsule main pulse to emit signals to light up the whole city. But the monsters surged and clawed at his legs. He gritted his teeth and dodged. AI, predict attacks. Synchronous repair module. The battle was in full swing, and Yu Hang was bleeding on the front line. The iron rods smashed into sparks, and a monster with giant claws rushed towards him. He sighted to avoid it, and the stick light poked his green eyes. Men from the northeast are not afraid of ghosts. Aqiang, follow me on the left to clear out these iron shells. Aqiang cooperated tacitly, and learned the stick technique well. Brother, poke the heart. Their weakness is there. There were too many monsters. One of the tentacles wrapped around Yu Hang's arm, and electricity rushed through him. He groaned, his sleeves were stained with blood, but he smiled and counterattacked. Boss, leave me alone. What's the point of this injury? Go build a lighthouse, and I'll hold it up. His figure was like an iron tower, and the shadow of his stick swept around to protect the newcomers as they retreated. Xiaowei screamed and handed the battery. Brother Yu Hang, get a new one. Don't be brave. Yushi dodges like the wind, and throws out the rune light net from her windbreaker, sealing the surrounding spirits. Haoran, these are the servants of the Night Emperor. Using blood to sense, I will trigger the weak point, the chest talisman. She closed her eyes and whispered, ancient words like the chanting of the Beijing Temple Fair, and several monsters froze in the mist and collapsed into black smoke. But the tide didn't stop, and a leading spirit rushed towards her, scratching his windbreaker with his claws. Traitor's bloodline. The Night Emperor calls you to surrender. Yushi gasped and dodged, her eyes flashing with determination. Grandpa's seal is not in vain. Haoran, believe me, I will block this wave. She threw out the amulet, blue light exploded, sealing 5 or 6 seals, but she fell to the ground exhausted. Xiaoli helped her up. Sister, get up. Lao Zhang, stabilize the power supply. The team was in danger. Daniel fell to the ground, Aqiang's arm was scratched, blood dripped outside the circle of light, and Mist took advantage of the situation. Lao Zhang shouted, Haoran, the steel frame is connected. But the system is overloaded, repair it quickly. Lin Haoran rushed to the base, knelt down to connect the wires, and the terminal buzzed. AI, emergency repair. The main pulse injection of the space capsule, the mirror array diffuses the ultraviolet network. With flying fingers, the wires wrapped around the steel frame, and sci-fi blue light sprang up, but a giant claw of the monster came and hit his back. Yuhang rushed to block it, and the stick was broken in half. The man flew several meters away and hit a pile of iron filings. "Boss, Jian. I'll give you my life for this light." Blood overflowed from his mouth, but he still struggled to get up. "People from the northeast, you are tough." At that moment, Lin Haoran's heart was as sharp as a knife, and he had a brief inner monologue. He couldn't sacrifice and the team couldn't be broken. With ultimate determination rising, he whipped his whip to protect himself and shouted, "Everyone listen to the order. Activate the lighthouse, turn on the ultraviolet pulse. Yushi, join hands to seal the core. Yuhang, hold on, this is not the end, this is hope." He pressed the terminal, the steel frame buzzed, the enhanced mirror array lit up, and the blue and white light beams pierced the sky like laser swords, sweeping away the tide of monsters. Yushi got up, and the bloodline light network and pulse combined to seal the leading spirit body. "The Night Emperor's counterattack stops here." The monster wailed and the tide receded, and the black mist rolled in, but the light beam expanded, scattered torches lit up in the ruins in the distance, and more survivors emerged. Yuhang was helped back to the lamp circle by Xiaowei and Aqiang, gasping and laughing, "Boss, this bloodbath is worth it." Lin Haoran rushed over and checked the wound. "Brother, thank you. The team is ironclad because of you." Yushi wiped away the blood. "Haoran, your determination is like a lighthouse, lighting up us." The Night Emperor lost his vitality, but in the end he fought behind. "The mirror array is stable, the signal is launched." The beam of light soared into the sky, the shadow of the industrial maze receded, and the team reorganized while breathing. Lao Zhang handed over the tools. "Young man, the system has been repaired, but there are still some party members at the edge of the fog. Next step, strengthen the defense line?" Lin Haoran looked at everyone, his eyes were firm, and his footsteps were pointing to the console at the top of the lighthouse, where the final battle of the eternal night was quietly approaching. Lin Haoran stepped up the steel ladder of the lighthouse step by step. Each step was like stepping on the pulse of the team. The blue and white light beams shot up from the base, reflecting the ruins of the industrial labyrinth, making those twisted iron bones look like the guarding Great Wall. Behind him, Yuhang leaned on Xiaowei's shoulder, panting and laughing, "Boss, as soon as this beam of light lit up, the fog withered. As the old saying goes in northeast China, it will start a prairie fire and burn him to the ground." Xiaowei held the bandage tightly, her eyes bright. "Brother Yuhang, don't move, the wound is still bleeding." "Brother Haoran, is the console on top stable?" Lao Zhang said the power grid can hold it. Lao Zhang followed from behind, wiping the sweat from his forehead. The toolbox jingled. "Young man, it's stable, but this steel frame is welded like the iron gates in Beijing's alleys. It depends on your technology to withstand earthquakes and ghost tides. Daniel, get up and help me pull the wires. The mirror array here has to diffuse ultraviolet waves." Daniel rubbed his shoulders, his beard covered with iron filings, and grinned. Standing up, "Uncle Zhang, no problem. The claw just hit my light source, now weld a new shield to prevent the fog from slipping in." Aqiang and Xiaoli stood guard under the ladder, using a stick lamp to sweep away the remaining black smoke. Aqiang's wound on his arm was tightly wrapped. "Xiaoli, is there any movement near the fog?" "The boss is up, let's guard the base, like the city gate soldiers in old Beijing." Yushi followed Lin Haoran, the rune talisman on her windbreaker was still flickering. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, frowning slightly. "Haoran, I feel, the Night Emperor's body is approaching. It's not the servant army, it's the leader himself. The resentment is like a black dragon entrenched, emerging from the underground tomb and heading straight to the top of the lighthouse. Its power comes from the spiritual veins of the old capital, and it is integrated with countless wronged souls. Its weakness lies in the core black bead, but you have to use your pulse technology to hit it directly." Lin Haoran nodded, the wrist terminal projected the blueprint, and the steel ladder trembled under his feet. "Yushi, link your bloodline light network, and I will synchronize the main module of the space capsule." "AI, skin the top. The mirror array expansion rate is 85%, signal emission preparation, global frequency band, ultraviolet light pulse injection, light up all remaining light sources. They climbed to the top, and the wind howled like a whisper in the eternal night. The console was a makeshift platform. The capsule's reflector array was embedded in the steel frame, surrounded by wires, and blue light pulsed like veins. Lin Haoran knelt down to connect the wires, his fingertips flying. "Old Zhang, turn on the power." After this wave of signals is emitted, the lighthouse will act like a beacon, waking up the gasoline lamps, LED sticks, and even abandoned generators in the city. The whole city will light up, and the Night Emperor's fog net will be broken. Lao Zhang handed over the wrench and said in a steady voice, "Okay, I'll take care of the electrical work. But Haoran, be careful, the eyes in this fog are very scary." Before he finished speaking, the ground shook violently, like the aftermath of the Beijing subway collapse. The entire lighthouse shook and the steel frame creaked. The mist burst from the depths of the maze, and black smoke rolled like a tide, enveloping countless broken spirit shadows. But this time it was different. A huge black shadow appeared in the center, shaped like an ancient emperor wrapped in black robes, with a crown on top of his head, a distorted peaking opera grimace on his face, his eyes as red as the blood moon, and his body was wrapped with chains and wires, exuding an ancient atmosphere of resentment. Light rebellion. The Lord of Eternal Night, the Night Emperor is here. "You insects, dare to light up my cage?" Its voice was like a temple gong, reverberating in the wind, with a gloomy Beijing accent. With a wave of its claws, the mist turned into thousands of tentacles and rushed towards the base of the lighthouse. "The Night Emperor. Here we come." Yushi shouted, flicking his windbreaker, and the bloodline light network exploded. Blue runes blocked the forward tentacles like a net. "Haoran, don't fight hard. Its core black bead is on the chest. Use your arc whip to guide the pulse, and I will seal the edge." Lin Haoran threw out the modified whip, and the blue lightning was like a dragon. Drew a tentacle, and the electric arc exploded into black smoke. "Team, hold on to the defense line. Yuheng, Aqiang, Danio, clean up the servants on the front line. Xiaowei, Shelly, replenish the light source. Lao Zhang, stabilize the power supply." His heart flashed. This is a turning point, from the lone light in the cabin to the fire network throughout the city. I have to lead them to break through the eternal night. Yuheng listened to the sound and identified the position, and swept up with the iron rod and light. Although his arm was still dripping blood, he shouted, "Boss, Northeastern men specialize in dealing with ghost kings. Aqiang, let me poke the left wing, those chain monsters are weak in the joints." Aqiang swung his stick to cooperate, and the tip of the stick poked the core of a servant's wire, and the green light exploded. "Brother, done." Xiaoli, the top of the gasoline lamp burned them. Xiaoli gasped and handed the lamp, and the flame shot up, forcing back a black shadow. "Brother Haoran, hold on. The Hebei girl is not afraid of the dark." Dania's welding gun flashed, and the iron filings flew away, protecting the base. "Boss, I will weld this steel frame, and Yi Huang can't knock it down." The Night Emperor growled, clawed at the top, his black robe stirred up a storm, and his tentacles whipped out like whips, reaching for the console. Lin Haoran dodged and lashed out with the whip, using blue electricity to guide ultraviolet pulses, but the Night Emperor's figure swayed and turned into a mist to bypass him. Technological barbarian. My eternal night comes from the injustice of the ancient capital. How can you, the flesh and blood, resist? A giant touch wrapped around Yushi's leg, and she fell to the ground with a groan. The rune talisman shattered. Haoran, bloodline resonance. Use the AI in the cabin to transcode my perception and lock the black bead. Lin Haoran rushed over to help her, and the wrist terminal buzzed. AI, synchronize the bloodline data. Transcode the ancient runes to predict the attack path. The ultraviolet network is fully open. The battle was like a fiery temple fair, with the lighthouse shaking and sparks flying from the steel ladder. Xiaowei screamed and handed over the battery. Brother Yuheng, change the pulse module. Lao Zhang, don't break the line. Lao Zhang gritted his teeth and pulled the line. It can't be broken. Haoran, the mirror array is overloaded and the signal is emitted fast. Yu Hang was bleeding in front, and the stick light smashed a chain tentacle, but was the aftermath of the Night Emperor was swept away, and he flew out of the ladder and hit a pile of iron filings. Ahem. Boss, this old ghost is very strong. But I can withstand it, send your signal. He struggled to get up, with a blood-stained northeastern man's fierce smile. Team, work together. A prairie fire will never be extinguished. Lin Haoran's heart was as strong as iron, and he was determined. He could not let his brother fall again. This light must illuminate the whole world. He knelt back to the console and pressed the core of the terminal with his fingertips. Yushi, join forces. AI, inject the main pulse of the space capsule. Global signal launch. Yushi got up, the bloodline light network and the blue electricity struck together, and the runes were like arrows piercing the Night Emperor's chest. The Night Emperor, yours Yongya, it's over. Wrong souls in the ancient capital, listen to my bloodline and disperse. The Night Emperor wailed, his black robe was torn, and the black bead in his core was exposed, and the red light flashed. No, my cage, Lin Haoran shouted, full open the ultraviolet light net, light up everything. The terminal exploded, the beam of light pierced the sky like a giant sword, the mirror rays spread, and the ultraviolet pulse radiated like waves. The signal sprang out, and the ruins in the distance lit up with fire, Beijing's alleys, old factories, and even broken lamps in the countryside. Gasoline lamps, LED sticks, and generators came to life one after another. The fire network stretched like a galaxy, and the mist evaporated in the light. The Night Emperor's figure twisted, the black beads cracked, and his resentment dissipated like smoke. Lamp. Fire. Rebellion. It grabbed the top with its last claw, but Yu Hang rushed to block it, and the stick lantern stabbed straight into the core. Go to hell, old ghost. Northeast fire will burn you forever. The black bead shattered, and the Night Emperor turned into black mist and dissipated. The aftermath shook the lighthouse, but the light network remained stable. Firelight gathered throughout the city, and survivors came from a distance. Someone shouted, light. The lighthouse is on. Lin Haoran gasped and stood up, looking at the team. Yu Hang was helped back by Qiang, Xiao Wei gave first aid, Lao Zhang stabilized the power supply, Dania welded and repaired the crack, and Xiaoli handed over water. Yushi leaned on his shoulder and smiled. Haoran, you did it, from a light in the cabin to a fire net of salvation. The Night Emperor is weak, but the remnants of the spirit body are still there. Strengthen the defense? Yu Hang wiped away his blood and smiled. Boss, it's done. This battle is worth it. But there is new movement at the edge of the fog, and we have to hold on to this light. Lin Haoran nodded, his eyes swept over the people in the fire, and his heart was as firm as steel. Leadership is not the end, but a new beginning. Footsteps have turned towards the pedestal, preparing to meet the gathering wave of survivors, where the last embers of eternal night are quietly rekindled. Lin Haoran slowly walked down from the top of the lighthouse. His footsteps echoed on the steel ladder, like a heartbeat. The blue and white light pillars had steadily pierced the night sky, dispersing the last trace of entangled fog. Around the base, the team members gasped and gathered around. Lao Zhang wiped the sweat from his forehead and the toolbox was still spread out on the ground. Haoran, the power network is stable, and the overload is okay. The old ghost just now shattered, the black bead cracked, and the lights in the whole city lit up. It's like setting off fireworks during the new year. Daniel rubbed his shoulders, his beard stained with iron chips, and grinned. Uncle Zhang, the repaired steel frame is also holding up. Boss, there is movement on the edge of the fog, and those little spirits are retreating, like wild dogs with burned tails. Yu Hang was supported by Qiang and leaned against the iron pillar. The blood on his arms dried up, and a smile appeared on his rough face. Boss, this battle was a good one. Men from the northeast said that once the prairie fire is burned, the Ghost King will have to kneel. But the injury on my arm will probably require Xiao Wei to stitch it up a few times. Xiao Wei squatted beside him, with needles and threads flying, her eyes shining with tears but full of pride. Brother Yu Hang, bear with it. Brother Haoran, the lighthouse signal has been sent out. The survivors are coming. The supplies from the Hebei girl will be of great use this time. Chiang and Xiaoli were guarding the edge, and the stick lights were still sweeping away the scattered black smoke. Chiang gasped, "Brother, the right wing is clear. Those chain devils will turn into ashes as soon as they are touched. Xiaoli's gasoline lamp will burn accurately." Yushi stood next to Lin Haoran. The rune talisman on her windbreaker had faded. She stroked her chest, her face pale but with a relieved smile. "Haoran, the core of the Night Emperor is broken, and its web of resentment has collapsed. But the remnants are still wandering around the edges. We must use the ultraviolet pulse of the lighthouse to scan it and seal it completely." Lin Haoran clicked. Turning his head, the wrist terminal was still buzzing, projecting the blueprint of the city's fire network. "Yushi, link your bloodline data, and I will adjust the mirror array. AI, diffusion scanning, global frequency band maintenance, locking the path of the remaining spirit bodies." His heart flashed. From the lone light in the cabin to this world-saving fire network, every step along the way has been worthwhile. Outside the base of the lighthouse, the mist recedes like an ebbing tide, and the ruins in the distance are filled with flames. In Beijing's alleys, old factories, and even the villages at the foot of the Great Wall, lights are coming back to life one by one, like the veins of a sleeping dragon awakening. Survivors came in like a tide, first in scattered figures, and then in groups, a middle-aged woman holding a child, shaking an LED stick in her hand, a few young people carrying abandoned generators, their faces covered with dust but their eyes bright. There was even a man riding a modified bicycle, shouting, "Lighthouse! That's the lighthouse! God, the eternal night is coming to an end." They gathered at the foot of the lighthouse, hundreds of people, soon numbering more than 1,000, and the air was filled with the smell of gasoline and whispers of hope. Lin Haoran jumped down the last steel ladder, and the team followed him. He said loudly, "Everyone, listen. I am Lin Haoran, the engineer who made an emergency landing from the space capsule. This lighthouse is our beacon. The Night Emperor has been defeated, and the eternal night fog net is broken. But reconstruction depends on everyone working together, repairing light nets in groups, building defense lines, and sharing food." The crowd burst into cheers, and one person, the bearded uncle, squeezed forward and held his hand. "Thank you, young man. I came here from Chaoyang district, and the monsters on the road have disappeared. I can repair cars, and I will take care of the light source." A girl next to him, carrying a school bag, said excitedly, "I know some circuits, knowledge I picked up from the ruins of Tsinghua University. Brother Haoran, how do you build a central hub? Like the power grid in Beijing?" Yu Hang patted Chiang on the shoulder and laughed and scolded, "Boss, it's exciting now. Brother Northeast teaches them melee combat, don't let the little spirit come back." Chiang nodded, his eyes full of growing confidence. "Brother, okay. Just now I poked the joints of the Night Emperor's servants, now teach the novices, make sure they don't slip through the net." Xiaoli and Xiaowei had already started distributing batteries and bandages, and Xiaoli gasped, "Brother Haoran, there is enough gasoline. The Hebei girl's belongings are here to warm everyone up." The old man stretched the coil and called to Daniel, "Boy, weld the new steel frame. Build a camp here, like a courtyard house in old Beijing. It is surrounded by lights and monsters can't get in." Yushi pulled Lin Haoran's sleeve and said in a low but firm voice, "Haoran, while it's busy, I have to tell my secret. The Night Emperor's eternal night comes from the spiritual veins of the ancient capital, and the black beads are the gathering of wronged souls of the old capital. My bloodline is not a curse, it is the guardian's inheritance, passed down from the spiritual medium of the Ming dynasty. It was originally hidden for fear of being controlled by the Night Emperor, but after tonight's joint attack, it was resolved. Now, my perception has become the source of power, which can help everyone build an eternal light network and no longer be afraid of the dark." She stretched out her palm, the blue rune reappeared, and with a slight wave, the air around her rippled like water, and the fire in the distance became more stable. "Look, this is a new life. Haoran, thank you for trusting me. From sensing weaknesses to joining forces to seal, we are an invincible combination." Lin Haoran held her hand, with warmth flashing in his eyes. "Yushi, your secret is not a burden, it is a sharp weapon for us. From the first time you sensed the monster in the cabin to the bloodline attack against the Night Emperor tonight, your knowledge has lit up the blind spots. Yu Hangyi walked over, his arm still wrapped in a bandage, and patted Yushi's shoulder cheerfully. Sister, northeastern men understand. Your blood is like the fire Kong in your hometown, and it's good to be warm. Boss, let's witness this new life side by side. The fog has completely dissipated, and the sky is a little brighter. Sure enough, the lighthouse beams spread, and the ultraviolet pulses were like an invisible net, sweeping away the last remnants of the spiritual body. On the distant horizon, cracks appear on the edge of the eternal night, and the first gray-blue dawn seeps in, like the long-lost morning fog in Beijing. In the crowd, some knelt down, some hugged, and the cheers were like gongs and drums at a temple fair. The light is back. The eternal night is over. Lin Haoran watched all this, and a wave of memories surged in his heart. From waking up from the crash landing of the space capsule, the lone lamp drove away the first wave of monsters, to meeting the Alliance in space, Yushi revealing the secret, to expanding the team, and building a lighthouse through the ruins. Every step is a test of tenacity. His technical knowledge, from repair pod modules to global signals, not only saves himself, but also lights up the entire city. Growth is not about being alone, but about unity. Yu Hang's bloody defense, Yushi's bloodline seal, and the unity of the team are the source of victory. Brother Haoran, come help. Xiaowei shouted. She and Xiaoli were teaching the new survivors to sew lamps. Aqiang and Daini were patrolling the edge, and Lao Zhang stabilized the power grid. Yu Hang and Yushi stood side by side under the lighthouse. Yu Hang handed over the kettle. Sister, take a drink. Boss, let's hold on to this new life. Northeast fire, burn a new world. Yushi smiled, and the blood runes reflected the firelight. Yu Hang, thank you for your support. Haoran, from now on, the spiritual veins and technology will be combined, and the city of Beijing will be reborn. Lin Haoran joined the crowd and wired a new light source with his own hands. The firelight shone on his face. Everyone, reconstruction starts here. The network of lights is connected, the defense lines are built like the Great Wall, food is rotated, and knowledge is shared. The eternal night is over, and hope will last forever. The survivors nodded, and the sounds of work began, the clanging of welding guns, the sound of wires, and the intertwining of laughter, like the resurrection of the old capital city. The dawn is getting darker, the shadows of monsters are gone, and the world is reborn. Lin Haoran looked at the team, filled with satisfaction. From engineer to leader, this journey taught him that unity is the biggest light, illuminating the endless road ahead. A few months later, the city of Beijing has become a fortress of lights. The survivors have rebuilt society, schools have resumed classes, markets have reopened, and the Ling My Light network will never go out. Lin Haoran stood on the top of the lighthouse, with Yu Hang and Yushi beside him, overlooking the prosperity. Boss, this is our victory. He smiled. No, it is everyone's. Tenacity and unity, let us rise from the eternal night. The story ends here. Hope is like the morning light, shining on the world forever.